What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the final day of the round of 8 for the ASL Season 15. Tonight, we have JyJ going up against SoulKey. It's going to be an incredible match. Tastosis thinks this might be the closest match, and I think he might be right.
Dude, I think, yeah, this is just such an insanely great matchup. Like, when I saw the lineup, I even said, like, this would be the best possible match that we could get in the round of 8. Because JyJ has shown for the last 3 or so seasons, macro Terran versus Zerg, that is literally light quality. Okay, so that's, like, really saying something, because that's the only thing that we ever said in Flash's prime era, before he went to the military, that anyone was the same level as him on, was Lights, Terran versus Zerg. So, like, I'm literally saying JyJ has some of the best macro TVZ that we have ever seen with Bio. And going up against SoulKey, someone who is really one of the best macro Zergs ever in Zerg versus Terran and Zerg versus Protoss, I think it's just literally a perfect match.
We've talked about this before, but the fact that SoulKey, in some ways, is one of the most impressive RTS players of all time, for periods being the best StarCraft 2 player that there was, for about a half a year, I'd say, and then coming into ASL and being extremely dominant, having a very crafty approach to the game. He seems to have a very wide and frankly hard to predict set of ways to play the game. Sometimes he does the craziest cheeses and ones that I think his opponents and Tastosis and me aren't quite ready for. And then other times, he can make macro games, even post-failed cheese, look easy.
That's very true. He's really good at those comebacks as well. Like, he really just kind of gets the game. So it's going to be awesome. Like, it's hard to knock him off early on. In fact, I think he injures himself more than people injure him. He's the best at taking fights in the mid game. I don't know, man. Like, this just really excites me, and I'm ready to learn. Like, this is what I'm personally struggling with right now, is macro TVZ. So I want JyJ to show me the way.
Yeah, it's funny. Every once in a while you look at somebody and you don't know exactly why they're doing it, but clearly they know what they're doing. He's one of those players. Anyways, guys, we're going to get into this match in just a little bit.
정영재 선수를 상대로 5연승 유영준 선수의 한 수비인데 그런 거 없습니다. 화력으로 밀어버려요. 엄청 터프하네요. 와, 밀어버리네요. 와, 자신만의 특유의 경기 운영으로 샌드박파이가 진출! 선대로 승부하면서 새로운 주인공이 됐습니다. 깨보면 안 될 것 같아요. 진짜 난폭하거든요. 약점까지 극복하는 최경이 멋진 보여주면서 승부권자로서의 어떤 자존심 이런 부분을 완벽하게 지켜내서 한정재에서 데뷔를 많이 떼줬습니다. 한정재가 한번 이겨내면서 벽을 넘어가는 듯한 이런 모습이 좀 보입니다. 자, 이번에 들어와서 여기서 수비와 배짱 설명 날개까지 달았어요.
나의 레벨은 다르다 어나더 레벨 하식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 15 8강 마지막 경기로 함께하겠습니다. 안녕하세요, 이영정입니다. 자, 오늘 8강의 네 번째 경기는 본인의 커리 하이를 갱신하려는 정영재 선수와 그리고 2시즌 연속 시드를 노리고 있는 김민철 선수의 테란 대 저그전 경기가 여러분들 기다리고 있습니다. 선수들 만나보시죠. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
반갑습니다.
안녕하세요.
네, 먼저 정영재 선수 16강에서 비조에서 당당하게 1위로 8강에 올라오셨습니다. 만날 수 있었던 3명의 저그 선수들이 있었는데요. 결국에는 조추첨을 통해서 김민철 선수와의 8강 대진이 성사됐습니다. 만족스러우신가요?
일단 제일 싫은 상대를 만나게 돼서 좋진 않습니다.
3명의 저그 중 가장 까다로운 저그가 김민철 선수라고 생각하시나요?
테란전은 그런 것 같아요.
김민철 선수는 반면에 8강에서 테란을 만나고 싶다는 바람을 내비치셨고 그 바람대로 테란 정영재 선수와의 대진이 성사됐습니다. 뭐 여쭤볼 거 없이 굉장히 좀 만족스러운 대진이시지 않을까 싶어요.
네, 그때 바람대로 연경 아나운서님이 뽑아주셔가지고 감사하게 생각하고 있습니다.
사실 정영재 선수가 말씀하셨던 것처럼 테란전에서만큼은 김민철 선수를 굉장히 까다로워하는 선수들이 많은데 정영재 선수가 생각하는 김민철 선수의 테란전 좀 특징이 어떤 게 있다고 생각하시나요?
그냥 잘 버티는 것 같아요. 그러고 역전을 잘하는 그런 느낌.
결국에는 김민철벽이라는 이름에 걸맞는 경기력이 테란 선수들을 좀 까다롭게 만들고 있지 않나 하는 생각이 듭니다. 하지만 김민철 선수, 정영재 선수의 최근 저그전 기세가 또 워낙 만만치 않기 때문에 준비 자체는 굉장히 철저하게 해와야겠다는 마음이 있으셨을 것 같은데요. 연습해보니 좀 어떠셨나요?
생각보다 조금 어렵더라고요. 그냥 막상 제 경기를 준비하려고 하니까 어려웠는데 영재도 요새 또 이제 잘하고 있고 옛날에는 좀 못한다라고 생각을 했었는데 요새는 좀 잘하는 테란이라고 생각을 해요. 그래서 방심 안 하고 잘해보겠습니다.
만약 본인이 4강에 진출한다면 세트스코어는 몇 대 몇 정도로 예상하고 계실까요?
3대 0. 3대 0 생각하고는 있는데 영재가 정말 준비를 잘해온다면 3대 1 정도?
철벽을 굉장히 단단하게 쌓아온 듯한 느낌의 김민철 선수입니다. 하지만 정영재 선수도 첫 4강을 노리는 의지만큼은 김민철 선수에 못지 않을 거라는 생각이 들거든요. 정영재 선수의 생각은 어떠신가요?
저도 3대 0 아니면 3대 1 생각하고 왔고요. 계속 웃는 모습 보니까 무조건 이기고 싶네요. 오늘.
김민철 선수의 웃는 모습이 상당히 조금은 마음에 들지 않는다는 느낌을 받으시는 것 같은데 어떤 경기를 보여주고 싶으신가요?
일단 맨날 저렇게 실실 웃다가 맨날 떨어지는 걸 잘 봤거든요.
네.
그래서 오늘도 그렇게 만들어주거든요.
정영재 선수가 보통 날카로운 칼을 갈아오신 게 아닌 것 같다는 생각이 듭니다. 김민철 선수 웃음기가 좀 가신 듯한 느낌이 들거든요.
제가 원래 웃는 상이에요. 네, 그래서 항상 웃고 다니는 건데 얼굴로 저렇게 오늘 일단 경기력 좀 준비 잘 해왔거든요. 경기력으로 보여드리겠습니다.
두 분의 인터뷰를 통해서 오늘 경기에 대한 집중도가 확 올라갔을 것 같다는 생각이 듭니다. 끝으로 두 선수의 각오를 여쭤보겠습니다. 정영재 선수.
승자 인터뷰로 다시 찾아뵙겠습니다.
기대하도록 하겠습니다. 김민철 선수.
저도 오늘 좀 승자 인터뷰 좀 알차게 생각하고 왔거든요.
네.
이따가 좀 재밌게 한번 해보겠습니다.
두 선수 중 어떤 선수가 잠시 후 저와 함께 이야기를 나눌 수 있게 될지 기대해 주시기 바랍니다. 오늘 두 선수의 멋진 8강 경기 기대하겠습니다. 인터뷰 감사합니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
자, 마지막 4강 자리를 놓고 겨루는 정영재 선수와 김민철 선수의 8강 마지막 경기가 여러분을 기다리고 있습니다. 과연 어떤 선수가 4강에 오를 수 있을지 두 선수의 8강 경기 지금 바로 함께 하시죠.
All right, well, there you have it, guys. We're ready to go into this match. Map lineup, this is going to be kind of your standard maps. No 76, no real crazy maps to get this going. I think Tastosis, for someone like you, a student of TVZ, this is going to be an excellent little course on how to play the matchup.
Oh yeah, I don't need to know anything about how to play TVZ on 76, so this is totally fine by me. This is what I want to see. Very standard maps. Vermeer and Silphid both guaranteed to be played, and this is perfect for me, Tastosis. Let's sit back and enjoy the macro fest that should occur. The one thing that will upset me is if we just see like technical and cheese builds the whole time. It's like, no, I don't need to see you sneak a vulture in. That's not what I need to learn.
I don't care. Yeah, this is going to be fun. SoulKey, I always enjoy watching him play. I do feel like there's something about how he approaches the game that he just isn't like any other Zerg, and a lot of times it's almost hard to articulate his style in an easy way. He's got so many different takes on each of the matchups.
Yeah, well, I think SoulKey, it's because he has such a broad range of play, which actually I think that heralds the absolute best players in the world, where they will play like, literally you'd be like, this is the best macro player, but hold on. He also does insane all-in sometimes. And we've talked about that like a lot, where there's very few players that are complete like that, right? We talk about like in StarCraft 2 Maru being like that really often, where it's like, oh no, there's just the full range here. And SoulKey is like that, where it's like, yes, he could 4-pool you, he could do like a crazy 2-base all-in, or he can play the best macro game in the world. So that variety, I think, makes him, like, probably the hardest Zerg to play against for Terran and Protoss players.
It's funny seeing the audience there a little bit more empty than when Jaedong was playing.
Oh yeah, Jaedong
really
plays in a
you.
Zerg versus Zerg, Tasteless, and no one and everyone shows up, and then we have the best macro TVZ you can get, and it's just a few guys that play the ladder all day.
It's going to be funny in years to come to see if this layout changes for who's big in the studio, because sometimes we have these old school players that come back, even if they've been in a couple ASLs, and they can really bring a crowd. But I do think you look at SoulKey and JyJ, excuse me, and both of these guys are so good. There's so much to learn from. Really, this probably could be, might even should be, the best of 5 of the entire round of 4. I think this is a really tough one to call, and it's just an interesting matchup with two players you don't really think about. Maybe SoulKey you think about in a round of 8, but JyJ not so much. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, these guys, it's their own losses for not showing up. It's going to be a great match. I mean, it can't be shorter than that Zerg versus Zerg that we just saw. That was, like, insane, the Jaedong versus Hero match. But of course, the winner here has to go up against Hero. So that's kind of like another funny thing. Like, if SoulKey wins, he's already seen how Hero wants to play ZVZ. And then if JyJ wins, Hero gets to see exactly how JyJ wants to play TVZ. So someone's actually going to be very strongly advantaged after this match, too.
Yeah, I think Hero going to probably be pretty happy with whoever he has to face off against. By the way, you know, SoulKey probably would have won several ASLs had he not maybe had ZVZ be his weakest matchup. It does seem like if he gets knocked out, it's oftentimes in a ZVZ.
Yeah, they completely agree with you on that. Like, if ZVZ wasn't a matchup, like, if he could just avoid that, like, seriously, there's been points in time where, like, it really, like, you have to put Flash in his way. Like, that's the only way to get rid of him, because he's just so dominant. And, I mean, we might see that tonight. I've been talking up a big game on JyJ, but we might just see SoulKey, like, surround his army and 1-2 punch him. Like, that's something that we've seen in the past from SoulKey against even some of the best players in the world. He takes, like, a perfect engagement, gets his lurkers out, and there's just no coming back. Like, I think coming back against SoulKey is incredibly difficult in this matchup.
Yeah, he just seems to get ahead, and if he gets behind early on, he's oftentimes able to play catch up and get ahead later on. He's just a very solid player. He knows how to weave and bob in a matchup. And I don't know. I mean, if I had to pick a favorite here, I'd say maybe this is slightly a SoulKey favorite versus JyJ. By the way, it also seems like we have some kind of a tech delay, so something in somebody's setup is an issue right now. Hopefully we get that sorted out. But while we have a little bit of this downtime, we do want to plug the Patreon. That's patreon.com/ASL English. This show would not be possible without the support of people like you. So we really appreciate it, guys. And if you haven't signed up already, we hope to earn your support.
Yeah, if you've been kind of on the fence about it, definitely go ahead and do it. We have, of course, the rest of this season going. Another season will be coming up this year, which could end up being incredibly hype. A lot of people are saying that Flash will be back. He is out of the military, but hasn't returned to pro gaming as of yet. So, you know, that could turn everything on its head. So definitely going to be an exciting one there as well. I've heard a lot of people saying that this is their favorite season so far. Where does it rank for you, Tasteless?
Oh, it's definitely, I would definitely put in the top 3 or top 4 for sure. I think this is fun in a lot of different ways. It's fun in the sense that we've had so many upsets, so many pretty crazy games. I think we started out kind of wobbly in the round of 24, and then the round of 16 got crazy, and it just hasn't stopped since that. And I think there's no reason to not be super hyped about the Final Four and whoever is going to be in the finals. I think no matter how you cut up the possibilities of this tournament, the finals is going to be great. And, yeah, I mean, the fact that we don't have Flash here and we've had so many good players get knocked out, you probably can never have an ASL like this again.
All right, let's get into it. Vermeer is our first map. Game number 1 between JyJ and SoulKey. So in the top left, our Terran player, it's JyJ. and the bottom left, SoulKey. Of course, I'm sure a lot of people here are rooting for JyJ. We want a repeat of that TVT finals from last season. If we could just get that, Tastosis, I don't care if only 2 Terrans are making the round of 8 as long as they go to the finals.
I mean, I'm fine at this point in time with whoever advances. Again, I do think Hero probably a little bit favored out of these two. I don't mean to get ahead of myself here, but I can't help but think about it as the round of 4 is just around the corner. But, you know, it is, again, funny that we had 8 Zergs that were in the... I'm sorry, not 8 Zergs. We had 5 Zergs in the round of 8 is what I'm trying to say. And then we ended up with, you know, no more than 2 Zergs in the Final 4, maybe even just 1.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing, right? Like, the Zerg line is so deep and so strong, but... you know, I guess that's like a kind of a recurring theme that we've been seeing in the last few ASLs, where it's like, if you're strong against Zerg, you do well. Like, for instance, if you actually look at Royal's run last ASL, the impressive thing he did was his TVZ. Like, he had a lot of cheesy, aggressive, teched out builds, and he just slaughtered the very deep Zerg line. Because, again, if you just list the very top players, if I ask you, like, the top, you know, 5 from each race, you can instantly name, like, 3 for, like, Terran and Protoss, and easily name 5 for Zerg, you know? And then you're like, wait, but I want to name 2 more. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's a lot of really strong Zerg players.
Yeah, I think the Zergs have really all tightened up their play. And, you know, we have a lot of different types of Zergs, too, which is very cool as well. And funnily enough, you know, now that we're deep in, like you said this, what was it? I think it was in the podcast we did earlier for the Patreon, but, you know, Remastered has been out for 6 years. So we've had a lot of time. And, you know, this was a bit of a jump start to everything StarCraft 1 in Korea. There was always a StarCraft 1 scene, even at the peak of StarCraft 2. StarCraft 1 was still going strong, but Remastered really got this, you know, I think a lot more PC cafe activity. I think it got a lot of people that, you know, get a little bit nostalgic here in Korea, and, you know, and buying a copy of the game and playing it at home. So we're deep into this, like, the newest era, right? With Blizzard resurrecting this game in a very special way. And it does seem like the majority of the players who've been on top, whether it's Terran, Protoss, or Zerg, are definitely New Age, with a couple exceptions like Flash and Bisu. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, the rising players are getting so strong at this point. There's, like, on the brink of getting into ASL consistently, there's like 5 players of each race that are looking like really, really strong, that you guys might not even really know their names yet, but they've been around, people know them, and we're just kind of waiting for them to shine. Now, taking a look at this game, this is a really interesting build from JyJ. First off, he cross-scouted, which is not too common, but he's also walled in, gone for a quick factory, and command center on the high ground. So he's really doing a good job of hiding what's going on here.
And for those of you watching, you might be looking at this and going, well, why would he do that? I mean, what's the advantage of having the command center on the high ground? Well, they don't see it. So the first thing when you look at something like this as a Zerg, you think, oh, he's like going maybe gas first. Maybe there's some kind of weird cheese happening. Something's weird, right? And we also see a hydrogen coming down here for the Zerg. I don't know if that's a reaction to this, but I honestly wouldn't be that surprised. He might be a little bit afraid of something like a 2-port Wraith or something of the sort, when in fact this is a 1-1-1 where the command center can land shortly after.
Yeah, it's actually, oh my god,
What?
there's a Zergling hole
what?
there, and it seems like he is actually unaware there was a Zergling hole there, which is shocking to me.
That's so funny.
How do you, I literally don't even understand.
How do you prep for ASL and not know that doesn't wall?
Yeah.
I can't believe
That's
it.
crazy.
Dude, that's
I don't have the answer for you there, but now he knows that it's a starport and everything. So, but yeah, this has actually been very trendy lately. We've seen a lot of 1-1-1s where you actually get a Wraith, which, I mean, back literally 10 seasons ago, this was the best build in TVZ, but it really fell out of style. So it's interesting to see it come back so strong. But I am shocked that JyJ didn't realize Zerglings can get up there. SoulKey certainly did.
Yeah,
he knew.
It's funny. SoulKey looked at that. I was wondering if he was trying to peek to the side with the Zerglings before they ran through. I was going to say, keep in mind that Zerglings don't have great vision range. By the way, these vultures are going to come in. They're going to try to get some worker kills. Obviously, he's not going to do too much with that. He's actually counterattacking already with these Hydras. And yeah, a funny game to say the least. I mean. In case you're wondering, like, how did he not know that? Normally you go into the custom game is the word I'm thinking of, and you just take each of the units, like you'll use a Dark Archon, you'll mind control everything, like a drone, a Zergling, an SCV, and you create that situation and you simulate it to confirm that the Wallens work.
Yeah, and actually the Zergling is a little bit smaller than Marine. Terrans, because we don't have the Dark Archon, we just use a Marine to check what Lings can get through, so I think that's probably what happened, because a Marine could not fit through that hole that the Zerglings went through.
Oh, what I normally would say is you make a game with a Terran and a Zerg in the game, and you play as Protoss, and you just steal both, and then you recreate it that way.
Yeah, I guess you could do that, but you're just saying, like, I don't think any Terran players do that. We just use the Marine, because that's the first time I've seen something where Ling fits through and a Marine doesn't. But no, that can occur.
There's a lot of places Marines and Lings can't fit through for little building spots.
No. I mean, for the fact that the Zergling fits through, but the Marine does not, there's very few circumstances for that.
Oh, interesting. I always feel like a Ling is so much smaller than a Marine. But yeah, I mean, anyways, that's how we had that crazy situation that happened there. We've got Speed Hydras out now, as well as some Lings hatching. And the Mutas and Hydras are going to come forward. Now, I don't know that he can get in here. He does snipe the Wraith. Already things for JyJ are looking very, very bad. It's hard to tech into anything too quickly. He has this bunker. He's got the tank and a couple Marines behind the bunker, but, you know, this is pretty weak defense. And what SoulKey wants to do is basically go for a lurker bust. He wants to come in, burrow right in front of that bunker, obliterate it, and crack Terran wide open.
What an interesting play. The fact that he's on Muta Ling Hydra Lurker at this point, 7 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. Very, very bizarre, but it looks like there's a vessel on the way. He's got really good building placement. Is that a second bunker? Wow, a second bunker here is amazing as well. And he has siege mode. I think JyJ will hold this.
Yeah, let's find out. The lurkers are going to come forward now. If he can target it right, he can wipe the SCVs out as well as the bunker. A lot of damage. He's going to take one tank out. There's still one more up on the high ground, and it's saved. The last shot by the turret. He does spill out of the bunker. Another bunker's going to be up here. The Lynx take that tank out. And it looks like these are all in range of the bunker, but you know, you can kill the SCVs behind it. With the lurkers, I love the micro. Remember that bunkers can't actually target fire, so you can basically juggle the damage that's distributed between them, and he shuffles back out of vision range of the turret. The bunker could hit the lurkers, but the turret can't see that far. Now the vessel comes in, spots, and kills off one of those lurkers as the other two pull away.
I tell you what, that was almost a rout for JyJ, and then SoulKey with those lurkers and the fact that he had gotten the first science vessel made some magic occur. Like, I thought that was going to be like such a huge and clear advantage for JyJ, but you know, SoulKey has done some things here. The SCVs have been reduced, but I still kind of like the position that we're seeing for JyJ. SoulKey is not that drone heavy. JyJ has a lot of tech. He has his double command center, and I think he can recover out of this position pretty quickly.
Yeah, great hold there by JyJ. That one tank was a hero. The one the Muta tried to kill, but just couldn't do it quite in time. You know, it's just one barracks still, obviously with the one factory and the one starport. We're seeing a Muta tech switch in here with Scourge. It looks like he might try to come in and assassinate the vessel. The Muta, oh, there's two actually out now. The Mutas can tank, and the vessel, oh, well, let's see here. He's just going to bring the Scourge in. Okay, so this is kind of another way to go about doing this. The problem is the turret can be helpful here, where the Muta can, of course, tank the turret shots. SoulKey may be getting a little bit too desperate.
Yeah, it's starting to look a little bit worse now. I mean, he's really wanting to reduce that vessel count as best he can, but you could see even, I believe JyJ targeted his Marines that weren't in the bunker on the Scourge there as well. Like, anytime that they're diving like that, you know what they're going for. And if you can retain the vessels, like, this growing Mutalisk flock, like, this was a big investment for SoulKey right now, and I don't think it can really get much done.
Yeah, it just feels like the time for this is past. So, he's going to irradiate one Muta, send it in, and
I think he might have just accidentally used 2 irradiates. I feel like I heard that.
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't even occur to me to think about that. He's trying to check. It looks like it was just one.
Well, I think he double irradiated a Mutalisk, is what happened. Like, I see the vessel mana. It sounded like he did, so I'm not 100%, but yeah, a little bit painful if he did there. The Mutas are actually doing like a surprising amount of damage here. There was only a couple turrets. Look at that. Even uses a irradiated Muta for that extra splash damage. Damn, man. SoulKey is doing some work here.
Yeah, SoulKey's really kind of blown me away. He killed the one vessel. He still has a decent amount of Mutas. There's actually more Mutas coming up with this. He hasn't even merged the rest of those in there. And he's starting to just pick away at these SCVs. Now, remember that over at the Zerg's base down at 6 o'clock, there's actually nothing mining minerals. So he has 3 bases, but he's barely using that 3rd base. We see an Evo Chamber. It looks like an SCV scouted that. But SCVs are being killed almost a little bit faster than they can be remade in this game. Good repair play here, but that just allows those SCVs to stay still so that SoulKey can target those down as well.
Yeah, it looks like SoulKey's going to run now. I think that if he stays much longer, about 1 more irradiate is just going to decimate all of his Mutalisks. They are pretty well damaged at the moment. He does have the 3 hatches, but you're right, he kind of needs to drone up a little bit. And if he doesn't do it soon, he's not going to be able to do it at all, because JyJ is like kind of quickly getting into an area where he's going to be able to move out.
Another irradiate here. He's going to pull some of those Mutas out of the group. I got to say that JyJ is kind of just wheeling his way into mining the minerals over at this base. He's done a great job remaking the workers here. And honestly, remaking the turrets. And I think he's basically weathered the storm. And it seems like SoulKey is going to dial it back a little bit as well. We have more drones hatching here. The Hive Tech is coming. And it seems like SoulKey is going to try to make some lurkers. JyJ does, and it's funny to say because he's on 2 barracks right now, which is, at this phase of the game, not really a thing, but he's been beat up so bad. But he might have enough tanks and vessels. He could push out in a little bit.
Yeah, I think once you basically get, 16-ish Marines, you're pretty safe moving out with the Mutalisk count this low, especially the amount of irradiates that he has. And so, you bring your siege tanks so you can push through some Sunkens or Lurkers, and we might see a strong push. It's just, this game is so wonky because of the amount of aggression on both sides. The amount of damage inflicted has been huge.
So this is a kind of scrappy army, especially with the infantry, but with the vessels, you can really make a lot happen. So we want to see what kind of value the vessels can get out of this. He wants to kill that turret, by the way, because that does block where his scanner's supposed to be. When you have a game as hectic as this, sometimes it's worth it to just throw a turret down there to get the Zerg to leave and then kill that off later. Plus, when attack is done, Zerg doesn't appear to have any upgrades done, but I would imagine armor is on the way at the Evo Chamber at 6 o'clock.
No doubt about that. One thing to mention is we only had 2 SCVs on the gas for the longest time in the main base. It's such a crazy, hectic game that I think JyJ kind of lost track of that and gas at a super premium when you're trying to make vessels. Now, SoulKey is getting ready. You can see him placing those units on the high ground. He is just going to try to run down and take a very good engagement because he does need a little bit of luck on his side. The army of JyJ here is better. 100% it is better. It should be able to win. But if SoulKey does this just right, like if he gets 1 big volley of Lurker Spines, he could wipe this.
Yeah, he's basically setting up for an attack in the front and then a flank. And here we come. The flank is going to be inbound, and I think he's going to be able to get all of the tanks here. I think this is about as good as you could ever ask for.
Yeah.
It seems like JyJ left a bit too much of an opening there, not expecting to have this many lurkers coming. Now the tanks are gone. The defilers are going to get consumed, and so Dark Swarm is going to be a constant from here on out. And so it's going to be more about vessels and Marines and less about tanks. Tanks sort of have their time, and they become obsolete after a little bit. And remember, if you get enough vessels, you can just keep irradiating the lurkers.
Yeah, that's definitely what he needs to do. Like, he actually had like 6 unused irradiates when he lost his tanks, so maybe pushed a little bit too far forward there without trying to get his spells off. But it is hard when they have these Hydras out there to snipe. And I think SoulKey is going to go into Hydra Lurker Defiler from here. Like, I really think he should, and I think he will. And it's like a great type of choice. Ooh, he picks those off. Amazing save on that Vessel. But yeah, look at this. Like, such a heavy micro battle here.
This is wild. It looks like the Lurkers are going to just come in range. I would have loved to have seen a defensive matrix a little bit earlier there on the tank.
Yeah.
And the Hydra's actually shoved that away. Defensive matrix is funny because there's definitely times to use it, but if misused, it's so wasted.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than dematrixing like a unit with just a few health, because you still take a little damage through the matrix. So you have to be careful about that. And then, of course, if they just don't engage, you're like, well, that was 100 mana poorly spent. But it can be, like a situation like that, you're right, it would have been huge. It could have helped him maybe clear the rest of the Lurkers.
Yeah, he's going to back away again. And, you know, keep in mind, Terran's very mobile in moments like this. Like, you don't have to fight the Zerg where they choose to set up in the middle of the map. By the way, oh my god. All right, he's going to pull away. I was going to say this would be really bad if he just dropped all his infantry right there. The thing about Zerg is they can cover their bases, but Terran can try to look for new opportunities on the map.
Yeah, there's not like a ton of opportunities right at this moment. Like, this is a very compact game for being 16 minutes in. Normally this would be like the 4th base is up for Zerg. We have 3 bases, probably 4 up for Terran, and Zerg's like fighting to take a 5th, like that type of scenario. But here it's like 2 versus 3, you know, a sub 100 supply for everybody. It's kind of insane the way that this looks right now. They're just trying to grind each other.
Okay, another attack comes in. And, you know, I think that JyJ can't make a lot of headway. I am a little bit worried for JyJ. He has done incredibly, all things considered. I mean, if you look back at, you know, that Lurker push and then how much damage he took from the mutas, but he's not finding a lot of headway here. I almost wouldn't mind seeing him send some of the injured as vessels back and just try and repair them, or having an SCV to repair with this. Because I think the one way he could try to win this long term is to just get, you know, 12 or more vessels and just sort of have this roaming death squad of spellcasters.
Yeah, I think what he's afraid of right now is letting up pressure, because this has turned into Hydra Lurker Defiler, and your vessels actually get worse and worse in time with this, because like plagues start going out, the Hydras just pick them off super fast. So if he doesn't maintain like a containment here, he doesn't have mass tank. So if this gets into his natural, the game is just done. And it looks to me like SoulKey is trying to go for a finishing move. I don't know that he has quite enough right at this second, though, to do it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that he does. It does seem like he's gotten in between this. This is a great way to handle the Defiler push. Once you've killed off the Defilers that were close to you, oh, look at this. There's an opportunity for, I guess he's not going to go for this base over here. I thought he was going to run in for a second. It's kind of a funny moment. But the Lurkers are going to come in from both sides here. And again, another nice snipe there.
Ooh, you can see just the utility, though, of what SoulKey is doing. Like, you throw the Plague down and your Hydras just massacre the Marines. He has to pull back. Some tanks are starting to be made, and we'll see if he can get up to the mass that he needs. Oh, man, that's a very quick jump upon that tank. I think that's a great move from SoulKey, because if SoulKey just continually pushes towards the north right now, it's unlikely that JyJ is going to be able to, like, secure his position in this game. His army has been a lot smaller. He hasn't broken through. He still has a good vessel count, but again, vessels against this composition aren't quite as good. You really do need heavy tanks.
He's actually managed to find the Lurkers over here. This can actually be pretty big. You got to be careful where you try to morph these. They do glitch on top of each other, but there just isn't enough, and not a single Lurker goes down.
I don't know how that is, but they do all end up living. He's going to try to hit some irradiates, and there's still a lot of vessels there at home. I don't see any additional factories. I think he's just on the one factory siege tank, so this is going to continue to be a problem for him.
Another great Dark Swarm. Terran just doesn't quite have the answer for it. As Zerg is trying to push it up, and then this. Now, SoulKey hasn't been that ambitious about taking more than his 4 bases. That being said, 4 bases is kind of enough to sustain in the late game. Lurkers are going to be morphed again over here in the low ground. I did like what JyJ was doing earlier, and it looks like he's trying to do it again, as he basically tries to go around where the Lurkers are and come in here for an interception on that Defiler. Okay, there we go. One of the Dark Swarms does go down. As long as you can keep irradiating that, that's all you really need to do.
Yeah, the irradiates certainly are very important. If you can continue to get those off on the Lurkers and the Defilers, it's amazing. But this is where we're going to see SoulKey's Hydras really come into play, where they try to zone out those vessels a bit more. And it does become a little bit hard. But look at this. Like, he finds these Lurkers on the sides. Amazing irradiates, man. Look at that. 5 Lurkers are going to go down. He's going to lose that science facility. Shouldn't have that out there right now.
Yeah, that's
kind of a common...
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's like kind of common to do that against like late game Zerg, but when it's a Hydra composition, you got to pull it back.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you know, if you lose that, you can't make more vessels. By the way, if we can see several sets of irradiates onto Lurkers and the vessel count stays high, Terran can start to pull back. It's a great way to extract value from the game, because he just keeps coming in here, he keeps irradiating them. And remember that, you know, energy, if a unit stays in the game for a long time and is able to cast a spell or an ability or whatever you want to call it, like Psystorm, or Irradiate, or Plague, or anything like that, that is the best value you can get in the game, because energy is the one infinite resource. It's a resource inside the unit that accumulates over time. And so, see how many vessels are here. Watch this. Bam! Oh, I thought I was going to be irradiated. He wasn't in range, but imagine that had hit it. Boom.
Yeah.
Another Defiler goes down. Now, what is the Zerg spending to get the Defilers and the Lurkers? It's a lot of gas. Here we go again. Now that one, you know, it's a trade. It's not value because the Hydra shoots it down. But the idea is, if you can just keep building up these irradiates over and over and over, the Zerg is going to spend all their gas. And remember that the gas guys are, you know, they get a drastic reduction in income once you start to mine them out. And from there, you're just going to be working with Marines. But man, SoulKey, great interception on those vessels.
But look at this. JyJ runs by. He's going to get this 4th base hatchery. He did get some of the drones there as well. This army will be killed off, but a great move from JyJ. And this is a great time for it, because exactly what you're talking about. We're hitting 22, 23 minutes. Guess what, Tasteless? He's going to be on 1.5 gas in just a second here. Like, the 3rd gas will be full. The other 2 gases are going to be giving him 2 instead of 8, because they are going to be depleted. This is right in that range that you're looking to survive to as Terran.
Yeah, I feel like Terran actually can win this. I mean, the Lurker count's getting smaller and smaller. We did see some vessels traded out, but you know what? It was worth it, because he took out the 4th base. A couple more irradiates on the Lurkers and Defilers here, and it's going to be a real problem here long term for SoulKey. SoulKey is not really within reach of hitting anything critical. He's sort of outside of the entry point for the 3rd base and the natural, but this isn't a valuable location to control. In fact, he's basically just getting in range of artillery from the tanks and bleeding off his Lurkers.
Yeah, his economy has become very, very weak. You see his gas is barely going up at this point. You see a lot more Zerglings being mixed in, which isn't what he wanted to go for. They aren't going to be very efficient here. And he's trying his damnedest to just get some Dark Swarms up there with Lurkers. But it feels like he just missed his window within this game.
Well, it also seems like he's just sort of bled out. I mean, we have one Lurker here that's under Dark Swarm. It can't be saved. It's eventually going to be shelled by the tanks the moment the Dark Swarm is gone. The 4th wasn't reclaimed. SoulKey's gas income is going to start to plummet, which means his Lurkers and Defilers are going to plummet. The Terran still has a healthy 3rd base, is still getting... Oh, well, maybe not. I guess that was a pretty good interception. I think I keep thinking that Irradiate has more range than it does in this cast.
Yeah.
Tastosis, I keep getting ready for it to come out, and I'm like, what?
Hydra's legit counter vessels. Like, they do so well against vessels, it's crazy.
Yeah, you know,
but here he comes. The Dark Swarm goes down, but it's only like 1 Lurker under there.
Yeah, he's going to come down again. This is where Terran's going to have to pack up. Well, he's just going to go right around it. This is also a smart move. I'm surprised he didn't use any of his APM to try to unsiege there. Wow, but SoulKey swats him back into position. Hold on, is SoulKey going to have an insane moment here where he might be able to come through and push in?
Well, he needs one more rally of Defiler unit. He really does. Because he's almost broken right here. He broke through a lot of things, but we need just a little bit more out of SoulKey still to try to really secure something. He needs another set of Dark Storms. Okay, he burrows his Lurkers, but the Dark Storm goes away. Oh, man. And JyJ just gets through before any reinforcements make it.
Yeah, and there's just not that much to work with. I mean, if you look at how rich the patches are at the Terran's Fresh base, granted, it's only one base, right? If Zerg can punt that command center back into the main, that's huge, but Zerg is still now reclaiming the 4th. I have to imagine minerals are looking pretty shallow over here at the 3rd base for the Zerg. And he's going to stem right in. He's going to try to force out a Dark Swarm. In fact, I don't even see a Defiler or Tastosis. Oh my god, I think JyJ's done it.
He has done it, Tastosis. There's just no gas left for SoulKey. He's got so little coming in. You can tell by the amount of Zerglings. And a great game here from both players, to be honest. I think JyJ keeping his cool. He was so good with these Irradiates, seriously.
He really was.
It gets very hard against the Plague and the Hydras, but he kept the pressure on. Stayed alive through some very hairy circumstances, and GG is called. JyJ takes game number 1.
Beautiful game from JyJ. That was really fun to cast. I definitely took away that Hydras do counter Irradiate for the vessels with the range. You know, Protoss players don't get to deal with Irradiate really ever, so I kind of imagine that it would be a little bit easier to snipe those Defilers, but great play from SoulKey. Ultimately, JyJ does take it. I think JyJ has a smart approach to just sort of going around and not fighting fights you can't win, but then trying to create pressure on the other side of the map. That counterplay forced SoulKey back. SoulKey lost his 4th base, and ultimately SoulKey didn't have the engine behind his push because he didn't have that 4th base to then finally come in and smash JyJ at his 3rd, and JyJ takes it. JyJ in this picture looking like he's already won ASL.
I know. he's rising to the top. A little bit of a replay here. Yeah, I guess this was SoulKey's push that actually made us start to think he might be able to take the game back there at the end. It was an excellent, excellent push. You know, Dark Swarm is so powerful here. And once he gets that one down with 2 Lurkers and those Hydras, the tanks are doomed. You know, they can't really do anything. You target them down super fast, and I mean, still some great moves going down here from SoulKey trying to stay in this game.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that he let the tanks just die. I think in my mind and in the minds of a lot of other players, my reaction is to try to save the tanks and at least get 1 or 2 away, but instead he just tries to vault down to the bottom. And even though it didn't work initially, he forced a Dark Swarm out at the bottom. And so in a weird way, it kind of works out. Zerg is forced to make Dark Swarms in places that don't really have any value.
Yeah. You have to kind of push your way up into those siege tanks, but once you get rid of them, if you have enough units, you can sometimes win the game. But he had already lost that 4th base. His gas income was basically dried up. But definitely a winning move from JyJ to snipe that hatchery. But yeah, that's game number 1, and JyJ taking a very strong, very long macro game. That game was longer than our last round of 8 match.
Okay, guys, short break. When we come back, JyJ versus SoulKey, the best of 5 to get to the Final 4 of ASL, continues on.
대회에 좀 편하게 임하니까 좀 잘 풀리는 것 같아요. 생각보다 큰 마음으로 계속 좀 임해보려고 합니다.
육상 공부라는 거를 해본 적이 없는 사람인데서 제 기억력이 되게 안 좋은 편이라서 제가 쓰던 비즈도 까먹고 이래가지고
이게 주간식이네요. 근데 이거 트로피는 받아본 적이 없어가지고 찍을게요. 일단 이거는 잘 몰라가지고.
와, 경기를 가장 많이 한 선수. 어렵다. 여기서부터 김명준이 와, 승률? 찍어야겠는데요? 어차피 낮을 거 제일 높은 거 선택하자.
제 기억에는 지성이는 일단 아니고요. 태경이 형 애매한데. 아, 근데 이건 일장이 형이다. 일장이 형이랑 이제 좀 많이 했던 것 같아요. 저저전이 50%, 토스전 60, 테란 60일 것 같은데 조금 후하게 쳐서 140으로 가볼까요?
잠깐만, 이거 여기 답이 있구나. 이렇게 해도 괜찮나요? 좀 수상한가?
근데 생각보다 어렵네요. 이게 좀 기억이 안 나가지고 기억이 날 것 같아요. 이거다. 네, 다 했습니다.
저는 1번부터 한번 맞춰볼게요. 잠실 콜로세움 스튜디오. 아, 비타 500이라는 엄청난 걸 빼먹었네요. 제가 죄송합니다.
저 4번 했어요. 이건 맞죠?
정답. 알고 계시는 건가요? 아니면 찍은 건가요?
알고 있었어요. 저는 아프리카의 거의 한 몸인 사람이기 때문에.
딱히 떠오르지 않음이라고 썼는데요. 막 원래 배틀크루저가 날아다닌다든지 그런 게 좀 멋있었을 것 같은데 오늘은 딱히 없었던 것 같아요. 내가 좀 이건 잘했던 것 같다. 김용훈 선수랑 스태프 당황하지 않고 끝까지 이제 인형으로 끌고 가는 거? 그 점을 가는
제 경기는 항상 한 경기 한 경기가 다 명경기이기 때문에 뭐 하나 빼놓을 수가 없었던 것 같아요. 다 멋있었습니다, 저는.
5번에 2번 했습니다, 저. 김태경 6, 김양훈 7, 도재욱 4, 박상현 3? 기억도 많이 찾으실 것 같아요. 정확하게. 오, 맞아요? 8강 거는 솔직히 사람이 되게 세세하게 기억나거든요. 이거 도재욱, 박상현도 맞는 거죠? 네, 정확하게.
일장이 형인 것 같더라고요. 일장이 형이랑 다전제를 좀 몇 번 했었던 것 같아요. 5-3, 5-3 두 번 했었던 것 같고 경기를 제일 많이 하지 않았나.
딱 12번 왔어요.
다른 사람이랑은 그렇게 많이 한 기억이 없거든요. 후하게 쳐서 140.5로 했는데.
조금 더 후하게 쳐서 있을 것 같아요. 160.3.1입니다.
아, 진짜요? 제가 승률이 몇이죠? 틀렸네.
그 다음 6번에 저 1번 했습니다. 아까 원래 처음엔 3번 했었죠? 네, 3번이요. 정답은 3번입니다. 엉터리를 얘기하고 있는 사람이 그거네. 아, 승훈이 형님 때문에 헷갈렸네. 아, 본선 진출했어가 아마 9, 그리고 8강 3, 태경이 형이랑 6번 했으니까 18이 맞네. 아, 여기서 이거, 이거 승훈이 형님 때문에 헷갈렸네. 아, 아쉬운데요.
A 시즌2에 처음으로 진출했다. 이건 맞는 거거든요. 왜냐면 제가 시즌2부터 시작을 했으니까. 최고 성적은 시즌3와 14시즌에 3위이다. 긴가민가한 게 시즌3 때는 4등이었거든요. 그래서 이건 틀린 거 맞지 않나요?
정확히 맞아요.
네, 그렇죠. 오늘 승리로 4시즌 연속 8강에 진출했다. 이거 정답인 것 같아요. 그래서 A, C.
시간에 보는 이제 제일 많은 분야인지.
제가 제일 많아요? 이거는 근데 기억을 하고 있어요. D, 유영진에게 0대2로 패배를 당한다. 이게 와일드카드전에서 일단 진 거거든요. 그렇게 시작을 해서 3저구조에서 생존에 성공을 합니다. 11시즌 만에 다전제에서 승리를 하고요. 일장형의 3대2로 승리를 한다.
정확하게.
네.
바로 지난 시즌 일이니까
네, 뭐 다 기억이 하고 있어서 이거는.
자, 9번은 4번 했습니다. 4번.
보고 싶나 보 꿈에서 깨버려
나는 3번 하네요. 저는 뭐가 나오는지 잘 몰라요, 솔직히. 그러니까 노래 제목을 써서 저한테 다시 줘요. 그러면 이제 제가 엠성을 누르는 그런 느낌으로. 일단 항상 응원해주시는 팬분들 너무 감사드리고, 그리고 마지막으로
사랑하는 제 자신에게
사랑하는 제 자신에게 수고했다고 말해주고 싶네요. 뭔가 언급을 해버리면 다음 경기 때 무조건 질 것 같은 느낌이 강하게 들었어요. 이걸 미루다 보면 계속 올라가지 않을까 하고 미룬 게 이제 여기까지 왔는데 4강 가면 이번엔 꼭 한번 생각을 해보겠습니다. 뿅은 안 지었고요. 시드를 꼭 한번 가보고 싶다라고 다짐을 했었는데 이번엔 방심하지 않고 시간을 봐보겠습니다.
이번 시즌이 좀 기회가 아닌가라는 생각이 좀 들고 그래가지고 우승 한번 해보겠습니다.
There they are, Tastosis. The foreign Brood War viewers. The ones when we moved to Korea, 15 years ago, and all the Koreans said they didn't exist. Well, they were wrong. And
There
now
they
they are watching.
Yep. Man, what a great match to get some tickets to and get to check out. I tell you, that game number 1, very good game, very interesting and back and forth, and definitely felt like it could go either way for a while. JyJ just at the end kind of making that big move that killed that extra gas. Such an important moment there. I don't think the whole series will look like that, though. It was a pretty teched out opening and a very strange early game.
Yeah, let's not forget that Ling, somehow the Ling on a diet actually slipped through the wallet for the Terran in a funny moment. But I got to say, a really high-level, high-skill game. Definitely one you can go back and watch. And it's funny because there were all these weird moments where you just see JyJ scrambling to come out, and it looks like he's going nowhere. But what he's doing is he's forcing out those Dark Swarms in locations that, they give Zerg a road towards the second base and the third base for Terran, but it's not close enough to do damage. And then the irradiates over and over and over and over and over, slowly whittle away all the investments the Zerg have. Defilers start to die, Mutas disappeared a while ago, and then there's just no more lurkers left.
Yeah. I mean, it's really about denying gas units against Zerg. That's what the whole matchup really is about. I guess other than when you're going mech is a little bit different, but any bio-based composition is about denying those gas units. So I think it's going to be an ongoing theme here for tonight. Now, set number 2, we are getting ready. Heartbreak Ridge is going to be our map, this 2-player map. We definitely see some highly aggressive openers here.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff that all the races can do. It does seem like we don't have as many of those now, as we're kind of late in the game on this map. This is a map that's been in and out of StarCraft way before even StarCraft 2 came out, even in kind of, the several years, 5 or 6 years, years in a Brood where we've seen this map. Let's see what happens in 2023 with JyJ versus SoulKey.
So we have JyJ there on the left side. On the right side, we have SoulKey. I'm interested to see what JyJ is going to open with here. Like, obviously there are cheeses that you could do as SoulKey, but I feel like this map, like, Terrans really like to do off builds. Like, it feels like there's a lot of ways that you could end up abusing Zerg, right? Like, if you look at the third base location, dude, if you hit something, like, if you go 1-1-1 and you hit your tank push, like, it's pretty hard for Zerg to defend, right? So,
right.
The third base is, like, in this weird place where you have to go up a hill through a choke to stop the push with the flank, right? And that's just not going to work out well. So, I think that this is probably, out of all the maps that we have in this pool, the least likely to see just a straight-up SK Terran game on.
Yeah, it seems unlikely. I don't think it's impossible to do. I think, in some circumstances you could make it work, but it does seem tempting from the Terran's perspective to probably try some weird stuff. Now, the weirdest feature of this map is that there's a high ground area above your own natural, and you can gain access to that with the minerals in the back. Now, we saw, like, almost 2 decades ago, a lot of really weird rushes on this map, and a lot of exploits that really, I think they've all kind of gone away. I think if you made another map that had some of the same features, people might try them again, but this map was so weird when it first came out that I think everything's sort of calmed down since then.
You're definitely right about that. Like, the only thing I've seen Proxy Gate up there occasionally still, but even that's become quite rare. Whereas back when this map first came out, in maybe 2007 or so. And I mean, there was cannons up there, there were bunkers up there, there would be like lurker builds where you would run lurkers up there. It was just madness. That back path, it felt like the whole map was about that when it first came out.
Yeah, and we've had a long history of maps, some better than others, that have had things that either were very unique and stood out, or unintentionally became exploitable. that became big features of the map in competitive play, as the game got more and more understood and developed. A really good example of this, actually, for those of you who are really from the old eras of the first few years of the game, was the map called Lost Temple, which I think most of us are familiar with. And, that was a map. Oh, my God, is he going to get this drone? I almost didn't bother to talk about this, but that drone is so low. But that was a map that had a high ground area at every natural. That you could drop tanks or put a probe up there and make cannons or put guardians over. And it seemed fairly innocuous, and it didn't seem, I don't know, it didn't seem like a bad map feature at first. It just seemed like, oh, cool, you could put stuff up there. And it became like the entire map was so much about putting stuff on your opponent's natural that, or above their natural, that we don't see any maps like that anymore, except for this one where they made your own ramp to get up onto the high ground. So this is almost like a map that throws back to the old ideas of Lost Temple while giving both sides a kind of unique way to get access to that.
It's a good throwback. I think you're kind of right about that. It's like you just generally don't have a place to stand up there. It's only flying units generally. Now, I want to mention something about this build because JyJ is doing the exact same opener as before, where he goes for the command center inside. And SoulKey, once again, is making the Hydralis Den and then into the Spire also. An Armory. Okay, so a very different build here from JyJ. But
okay, he's going to plug this up here.
Oh, yeah. This is a great jump that you can do. You can just go ahead, utilize the displacement there, and pop the Vulture through. Very, very nice move. So, see, it's one of these highly technical builds. And, I mean, this is going to be annoying for SoulKey to deal with, no doubt. He's going to lose at least a drone. Probably multiple.
By the way, I think that the Hydra Den was actually... I'm sorry, not the Hydra Den. The Mutalisk Spire was actually made later on Map 1. It seems like in this case, because the build looks the same, the idea that's coming here from SoulKey is like he's just going to get both of them out here and then try to figure out what he's up against. But there's a lot of intelligence to what JyJ is doing here. JyJ, because this is a best of 5, he has 2 different builds in the first 2 games on the best of 5 that at least start out looking the same, but the second build has a completely different branch and trajectory from the first game.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it's only 1 factory Goliath right now. So I really don't know what's going on at the moment. Like, this could be a 1 factory Goliath bio build. This could be, he might be tricked out and think that there is, nothing. Like, we don't have Goliath range on the way, which is very, very bizarre. Yeah, this is some new, fresh stuff. But just the fact that JyJ did 2 builds that looked exactly the same, but had different branches, we might see more and more and more of this throughout. It might be one of those Squirtle days where you have, like, 5 games that all look the same, but absolutely are not.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the MVP, not just MVP Scroll, sorry, the Squirtle group series you're talking about from GSL. That was a big casting day for both of us where we thought, oh, this guy really knows how to plan for a group or for a series because he can disguise from game to game what he's going to do. Now, it looks like the turrets are just slightly late, and that means SoulKey is going to get a little bit of a punish here. He's going to take out a few of these SCVs. Now, with Goliath here, you can't stick around for too much longer. But it looks like he's going to get at least 4 or 5 workers before getting back out.
Yeah, that was really tricky from SoulKey because you see the Hydralis Den, you don't expect mutas to show up at the actual time mutas show up. Like, they showed up at like just after 6 minutes. That's normal. Like, that's actually 2-hatch muta. So I think that did catch him off guard a little bit. He sees the Goliaths, but this is not just a Goliath build. This is a Goliath bio build. He has +1 on the way for his Marines, so we should see barracks added on here in a little bit.
Really nicely placed turrets over here at the natural. Enough that you can't quite thread that needle through the top without taking damage. It looks like he will decide to go ahead and fight this. So he will now have a little bit of an access point up into the main, so the Goliaths will come up here and try to block that off as well.
And you know what? SoulKey just continues forward. He is making a macro hatch in his main base. He's kind of filling in his drones a little bit while he figures out what's going on with mutas. You can see the location. Like, look, he's tucked all the Raxes in to the little side, and you can see where he put the eBay. Like, he's trying to hide the fact that he's going bio. because you do need to hide that, because this build, like, this was popular for like it was like popular for like a qualifier cycle basically in ASL, and Flash used it one time in the actual tournament and lost with it. But it's like you go one factory Goliath, you make it look like a Goliath build, and then you roll out with a ton of Marine Medic, and your opponent is like, oh, wait a minute, I thought I was countering mech.
Yeah, one Marine is actually stuck back here.
Oops.
Kind of a funny moment there.
It's so he can group his Goliaths together, Tastosis.
It's like, well, a Zergling would fit through there, Tastosis, but... No, by the way, he saw the landed E-base, so that is the tell. Now, I don't know if it registered or not. You know, I think generally if you're not going to use the eBay at all and you're meching, you have it lifted off. But if he sees that, then he sees what's coming. And this build is basically only good if they don't realize what's coming, because it's horribly inefficient to open up with a bunch of Goliaths and then go for bio later on. But if you successfully tricked the Zerg into thinking that it's mech, and then suddenly stim units come out and you just don't have anything to deal with it, you could win the game. But I think if SoulKey got a right read, he should be able to handle this.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but like, there's a fair amount of Goliaths here. You got the +1 armor for them, so they're damn beefy. He is getting a good amount of that bio. He still hasn't actually gotten into range to see the barracks infrastructure, but I think SoulKey probably has a good idea of what's going on. Those lurkers going to be super powerful. You know, the overall, like, Goliaths do okay against lurkers and okay against Hydras. They kind of do okay against all Zerg units. But they're not like a siege tank, you know? You're not going to break a fortified position.
Yeah, lurkers on the high ground as well. He does burrow them there. These could be hold position as well. If he sees the one Marine here, and you could just lose the game to hold position lurkers. Yeah. This is a sacrifice you've given. Oh God. Boy. All right, here we go. Okay.
I've seen that before, Tasteless. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the anticlimactic ending of a giant amount of lurker spikes kill an entire army in 2 seconds.
Oh, this is bringing me back to when I first learned about this when I was in high school, and I remember just losing a game and just turning off my computer and just walking away for the day. I'm like, that's it. That's enough.
Yeah. Well, the game's ruined.
Yeah, well... Yeah, so he's moving through here because he wants to see if there are any lurkers, but there's a chance Terran goes directly to the middle. JyJ does seem to be fraying a little bit at the seams here. He is taking so much damage in his main, and the lurker counterattack might be devastating in of itself. He still, for obvious reasons, doesn't have a vessel yet. The counter, there's so much going right now for SoulKey.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around how much right now JyJ would have to do to even get back into this game. The counterattack is going to be so good, he can actually just scramble up onto the high ground, as is thematic with this map. You know, that high ground area is going to be used again. The turret's going to be taken out. There's one lurker that he can just burrow over here. JyJ has to deal with that, or deal with the threats that inevitably will come with that as well.
Oh man, there is some annoying stuff going on. He will be able to clear this with the Goliaths, but this has really slowed down the attack timing that you wanted to hit here as JyJ. He's still okay. He's still in the game. You know, as SoulKey doesn't have his hive up, he is making it. He doesn't have his third up, he is making it. So, like, SoulKey is getting into that next stage, and he's definitely delayed what JyJ wanted to do, but JyJ still has, like, a strong army overall. You know, like, I'm still giving him some shots in this game.
No, he's not dead yet, but no detection still means, you know, hold position lurkers are scary. He is reinforcing this. Remember that, you know, the vessel's science facility's still not even done yet. Another scan comes down here, but any scan that's used over here in the main is one less scan when you're on the map, right? So, you know, it's a scary resource to be limited on right now. And we're going to have another
detection. Detection might be the problem. You're right. Like, without a vessel out, I mean, occasionally you want to check what they're doing as well. So he turns around. There is that possibility of the massive counterattack. And you look at this army, and it's like, okay, well, it'll beat what I see right there, but lurkers could be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Muta's continuing to chip away at this and just do whatever damage they can do. A scan comes up and confirms there's nothing here. Now, hold on a second. JyJ is basically in position. He has not died to hold position lurkers. There might just be enough, assuming there's enough scans here to take everything else on.
Look at this flank, Tasteless. The Zerglings hold everything down so the Lurkers can burrow, and SoulKey will massacre this army. That wasn't even close.
Yeah, that showed so much patience there from SoulKey to just buy that time. Finally, JyJ had made his way across the map, but it was too late. He smashed that army. We have a third base that's up and running now for SoulKey. Again, there's a reason why we don't see half bio, half mech all the time. Generally, you want to stick with one. And now we're starting to see that Zerg can just kind of take it on with what they've got.
Well, you know what? JyJ actually has a pretty good army still. 3 tanks, a vessel, marine medic. It's starting to look a little bit more normal. But I'm afraid that SoulKey's going to be into his defilers in a moment. And with this being the first vessel, the odds of fighting back the Radiate like we normally see, it's just he's not going to have that many.
Yeah, you know, normally in games that have been out this long, the mutas are already an afterthought, right? They've already eaten so many irradiates, and it's hard to take advantage of them. But the fact that SoulKey has basically not had to worry about his mutas being irradiated because the vessels were so late has created so many more opportunities, and now we see SoulKey sniping those tanks, which just gives him so much less potential to break into anywhere.
Man, a lot of lurkers here that you gotta push through. No doubt Consume is on the way. He's already got a Nidus up, so he can reinforce this base as well. I don't think that there's any real way for JyJ to kill this base. Like, and look at that. Oh my god, the tank to 10 health. Like, SoulKey really... Like, once you kill the tank, you can't break through, right? The bio just can't get through 4 or 5 lurkers. So he's really tried hard to get it, but it has remained alive. He sieges it up. And he is just going to run for it and go for that snipe.
Yeah, even takes it out with the mutas just to be sure. Nidus is done, so he can traffic as many more units as he needs up into this location. Kind of an overextension here from JyJ. And now I have to imagine he's just going to run that Defiler in there, Dark Swarm this area, and that is going to be it.
So he is holding tight. Going to go for a counterattack around the left side of the map. JyJ's army going kind of through the center right now. Unsure exactly how many irradiates he has, but certainly not enough to get rid of all of those lurkers. So if SoulKey makes it up to that natural, which it looks like he will, there's not much hope for JyJ. It really looks like SoulKey's about to tie this series up.
Yeah, this is almost SoulKey's game to lose at this point in time. The counterattacks are just too strong. You know, just having one extra base this long in the game is too much. And Tastosis, I've heard you say this so many times, but one Dark Swarm over at the command center, at the natural, that's basically game. That is the neck-breaking move because the minerals in the main are going to mine out. These lurkers are now up here. They can obliterate all the workers, and that's it. GG. We're tied up 1-1.
Yeah. So very well done there from SoulKey. What a strange game that was. Like, he definitely had some good moves. I think JyJ was trying to hide his build very, very well, but it didn't end up working out for him. You know, that Goliath bio build, I don't think we'll see it again here tonight. I don't think we'll see it again in the tournament, honestly. It's got a 0% win rate in ASL, you know, and it's been done by 2 of our best TBC players. It is a cool build. The idea sounds so nice, right? Like, you have the Goliaths, you kind of trick them, you defend the mute as well. But you still have bio, which is so strong, you know, to roam the map with. But as you can see, it certainly has its flaws as well.
SoulKey pointed that ASL logo on his shirt. He wants to take this season. He might be able to do it. JyJ coming out with a very, really different build. Again, I mean, you just look at the units roaming across the map. It's Goliaths marching alongside infantry. And, you know, it is unexpected, but the reason why we don't see this every game is because Zerg can kind of just fight it. The idea is that you want to surprise the Zerg, and they don't have the right units. But SoulKey knew what to do. He just counterattacks. By the time that JyJ comes in and cleans up the counterattack, it's basically too late. You're working with a very weird, costly unit comp that is very weak on just kind of having detection in general.
Yeah, you can do some things with it really well. Like, it'll fight like pretty well against like Hydras. It destroys mutas, but yeah, something like this, SoulKey this is the perfect mid-game engagement that we talk about with SoulKey, where he comes in with a flank like this. He knows exactly how to eliminate your army with like no losses. That was such a one-sided fight. It's insane.
Beautifully done by SoulKey, and now we get to see who's going to take the third game as we are tied up 1-1.
All right. I got to tell you, like, both games, some technical openings from JyJ. He's kind of keeping to that same looking opener. We'll see if he's going to do that on map number 3, which is going to be Silphid, after this quick commercial break.
솔직히 인간적으로 두 개 다 가졌어요 baby 칼로리 제로 맛은 제대로 그래 걱정 빼고 고민 빼고 맘소리 빼고 This is zero life This is zero life 빼건 뺐어 질성세이다 제로 맛있어 제대로 없어도 되는 건 빼고 사이다 제로 칠성사이다 제로
참해봐 새로운 걸 참해봐 짜릿한 걸 참할수록 더 새로운 날이 보여 시작해 짜릿하게 참해봐 시작해 색다르게 참해봐 매일 참해봐 새로운 날을 시작은 새로 짜릿함을 참해 매일 새로움을 참해 너도 탐세봐 탐세로
드디어 카운트다운을 시작합니다.
4, 3, 2, 1.
떴다. 제로 칼로리로 기분까지 가볍게. 밀키스 제로.
Welcome back, everybody. ASL continues on here as we go into our third match. But before we start that match, we want to thank you guys for supporting us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/ASL English. If you love StarCraft, if you love Artosis and me, and you want to support keeping the English documentation alive here, I don't know why I can't talk right now. If you want to keep the StarCraft 1 alive in the English language, we hope you go to our Patreon and do so. Artosis, say something.
Oh my God! You're calling it documentation.
I know,
Are we documentary makers? Like,
yeah. Capturing wildlife here.
I tell you, this is the one game that I think will literally never die. I think this will be the longest played esport by far, and it's thanks to you guys for supporting that and helping it continue to reach that English scene. So definitely check it out. Again, patreon.com/ASL English. So far, Tasteless, this series is very close. Interesting stuff from JyJ. We're going to see if he continues down this path. But I do feel like SoulKey is starting to react a little bit better now.
I think so, but I also think JyJ opened up with a pretty weird build. It's one of those builds where you look like a genius if it works, you look like a fool if it fails. And I don't think we're going to see JyJ try that again. Perhaps JyJ leans in a little bit more to that more classic style of just trying to out-muscle the Zerg like he did in Game 1. It did seem like he was able to hang on there. Oh, there we go. All right, see, I mess up the Patreon plug, but he comes in and saves us. Thank you so much.
Shout out to Tasteless and the other guy. What is that? The other guy. This is getting ridiculous, Tasteless. You know, I've been wanting to talk to you about this for a long time. It shouldn't be Tasteless and Artosis anymore. We need to switch over to Artosis and Tasteless. It has been
Artless.
12 years of my life of being Tasteless and Artosis. I'm done being and Artosis. You can be and Tasteless.
Okay. All right. We can mix it back up. We can be Artosis and Tasteless.
There you go. That rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Artless.
Artless.
Yes. There you go. You got it.
This has been such a good match, man. I'm excited to go into Game 3. I really want to see how JyJ is going to play. We talked about the fact that he had these 2 build orders that look the same at the start but take very different directions as the game develops. Are we going to have a game 3 where he does another build that looks like the start of game 1 and 2 but has a third direction it could take?
I think it's the right way to play it. If you're going to do 2 games that look that similar and do completely different things, why not make several games in the series look exactly like that? I think it's a really, really good call. And it can really confuse SoulKey as well. Like, that's hard to react to. It's like, okay, well, I know a factory's coming, but like this could even be a 1-base build because the command center is being built inside as opposed to at the natural.
Sure. Keep them guessing. We're ready to start this game. It's going to be on Silphid 3 as we continue this on. Remember that the winner of this best of 5 goes on to face off against Hero in the Final 4 of the ASL Season 15. Right now, JyJ and SoulKey continues on in Game 3.
All right, JyJ on that left side. And we have SoulKey up at 12 o'clock. Probably the best position here for JyJ. The natural is a little bit difficult to defend from mutas, but not too bad. So should be feeling pretty comfortable. But again, we got to just kind of wait for that opening build order to see where he wants to steer this game. Silphid definitely gives us good Terran Berserks, I think. It's a really interesting map with a lot of cool choices that can be made.
Yeah, Silphid is definitely a welcome addition to the modern era of just good macro maps. Vermeer also coming out, just a treat to have. I hope we have 1 or 2 more of these as we go into 2024 to kind of keep the solid macro maps alive. I've said in the past, but it's true. There was a period where we went a little bit too insane with new maps. A little bit too experimental, and we had kind of waned away from having some good traditional style maps, but this is a very good one.
Yeah, honestly, like, Silphid has stood the test of time. I was actually a little bit doubtful for a bit as it got played more and more, but honestly, this is the best 3-player map ever, and it continues to give great games. Now, look at this. SoulKey checks for the center barracks.
Yep.
Like, that's very smart, because that was actually something in the back of my mind. We were talking about the factory play a lot, but something in the back of my mind was like, well, I mean, because at the pro level, you consider pool first to be countered by factory. Okay,
right.
So like a fast factory, basically, like, the thing is, at any lower level, like if you look, you know, at anything up to maybe low S, pool first can just kill the factory build. Right? Because you have like 1 Marine and stuff. But once you block a pool first with it, you have a huge edge at the pro level. So it actually leads into proxy barracks really well to do that multiple times. So the fact that SoulKey scouted that shows like a really big brain, I think. That's like, because that would have been a very smart build for JyJ, so SoulKey just wanted to rule that out immediately.
Hey, quick question. There is a way to make the SCV attack faster, because I think we just saw that. Do you know how to do that?
Okay, there's animation canceling that happens, but I have been told that it does not actually speed the attack. So I'm not, because we used to think it did, and then I've had someone recently in the last couple of years tell me that, in fact, someone measured it, and the animation cancel doesn't actually speed it up. I feel like it does, but...
Yeah, no, I feel like it does too, from my I mean... When I fight Terrans, I feel like occasionally they get to attack me faster. I guess somebody let us know on Twitter if somebody actually has the answer. Usually when we ask people to let us know on Twitter, they just all give us the wrong info.
But
yeah,
from what I've been told more recently, the animation cancel doesn't make it faster. But I don't know. Okay, so look at this. He's going to bunker rush this hidden base. Oh my god. Wow. And the third base is hidden, and it's so quick. We're going to have 2 Marines going up. Dude, he's going to get that. 100% he's going to get that.
Yeah, this is a kind of a funny situation. So Zergs always want to take their third base here. It's the easiest to defend, but it's actually kind of out there, man. he's keeping the Marines down here. He is going to finally fill that up. And, you know, having a bunker on the ramp with an SCV to repair, like, I don't think you're ever going to recover this. There's so many Lings coming down here. This is a lot for the Zerg to deal with. And keep in mind, if SoulKey, like, attacks it and doesn't save this hatchery, I feel like he's almost lost the game.
Yeah, look at this. He brings a Marine to block, too. Definitely a good choice. He just needs to slow this down. Maybe SoulKey actually does go ahead and save this. That was really smart to make this many units. Oh, man, he had a second SCV in there. That's actually a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Like, that SCV should have popped out already.
No, I think that was the original SCV that got sucked through the bunker and popped out the other side.
Okay. Okay. I guess you're probably right about that, because I'm like, that's insane. Like, 2 SCVs repairing is so much better. But look, he saves the hatchery. I actually thought that was going to die. It did force a lot of Lings out of SoulKey, and the Marine loss doesn't hurt JyJ. It does reduce the chance that he can do any pre-muta push-out type of thing. But honestly, you look at the scouting that's going on, there's no layer. So, like, he's sitting behind a wall. That was good for JyJ still, even though it didn't, like, it didn't do as much damage as I thought, but that's totally fine.
I agree with you. I think it didn't do as much damage as he had hoped for, but he's still in better shape. You know, a bunker, 3 Marines, and an SCV to force out that many Lings, and also to kill that many Lings as well. You're definitely going to like a position like that. He comes out, makes a little bit of a threat, and then the Zerg has to back up. We don't have a layer a layer started at the natural, but it's not finished, so it's a ways away. And I would imagine we're probably going to see a push pretty soon here. It would seem like you could probably make 2 medics and then make a fire bat back at home to make sure that Zerglings can't counterattack and probably have some pretty healthy pressure.
Well, right now, that is getting to be a rather large Marine medic group. You have to make Sunkens at both locations or have so many Speedlings that it's kind of crazy. It looks like he's getting about 3 Sunks at his natural. Only 1 here. You want 2 on the high ground. 2 on the high ground will, like, just hold against, like, so many Marines and medics. And look at this, just blocks with the Fire Bat and SCV while he makes some more Marines to make sure that he holds on to that wall as well. So really well executed so far by JyJ.
Yeah, JyJ, I think, is playing a masterful game. He comes out, forces the Sunks. He probably won't engage here. Yeah, it doesn't look like he should, especially with all these eggs about to hatch. But you force out that much that the Zerg has to spend on defending, and then you just get away.
Yeah, he's playing very, very well. Like, he's forcing the Sunkens. He's getting a very, very fast factory as opposed to any more barracks, because it's like, well, your opponent's already on 3 base. So why would you just continue to make units? Oh my god, I can't believe he's trying to break this. That's crazy. There's just no way.
Yeah, it's I've seen occasionally Terran start to get more and more impulsive. It seems like it may be trying to break that. I guess, you know, there are probably some Zergs that are trying to be a little bit greedy with what they can get away with behind that, and so maybe in the past, you know, even few weeks in practice sessions, Zergs have been too greedy, and Terrans have tried to, you know, test that, but that's an overextension. You don't really care if your sunken colonies are damaged. Basically, you just hemorrhaged a lot of infantry, which gives you a lot less control on the map.
Yeah, not a great moment right there for him. But it's not like end of the world either. You lost a little bit of bio. It's okay, just make sure the turrets are up. His additional barracks are like a little bit slow, but that's going to be normal in a position like this. He's getting very fast starports, and that's going to be where JyJ tries to gain his value back against this quick 2 base.
And so the Mutas, nice shot. One of them gets taken out, another at 10 HP. But if I'm correct, Tastosis, and look, I'm no expert at TVZ, it seems like especially if Zerg gets a 3rd base up quickly like he has in this game, you want to be careful to not overextend. It feels like 1 or 2 overextensions, especially into something needless like sunken colonies.
Yeah.
And you're going to give a lot more of the map control up to the Zerg. It almost feels like this is a game you want to go right up to the line and never overstep it. And just keep Zerg really... you know, cautious about engaging you. Because once you overextend a couple times for Terran, remember that, you know, Terran, they're remaking all this same stuff. It's Marines and medics and everything. And the beauty of that is if you lose a group, you can remake the same thing later on. But Zerg is trading out nothing but Lings for Ling Muta if they're doing it correctly. And so
Yeah,
if you have enough mutas out, you can be more forceful later on.
I would definitely agree. Like you got to be a little bit careful against these really fast 3-base builds. They're, it's pretty greedy. You have to get out there and force the sunken, so pressure is like a must. But the way that JyJ is playing it, we've seen Mind play it like this a lot recently as well, is to just go very fast starports because your opponent's pressure is a little bit slower too because you're kind of forcing them into a defensive spot. So, yeah, I feel like both sides are playing it really quite well at the moment. Now, I only saw an Evolution Chamber and no Hydralisk Den. This could turn into Crazy Zerg from SoulKey, or did he have a Hydra Den at the 3rd?
Oh, I didn't see, to be honest. I'm sure we'll catch it in a little bit.
Oh, there it is.
There's a Hydra
okay.
Den at the 3rd.
Yeah, Crazy Zerg is not popular on Silphid, so that would have been a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, it looks like it's going to go into standard Hive Tech here from SoulKey. He continues to put pressure on in this main base, but we already have 2 vessels out. In like 15 seconds or so, we'll have a Radiate ready.
He's done a good job really taking advantage of these walls over here and using the mutas to just chuck glaives down and do more damage to them over there. The 4th macro hatch is coming down now, which really means that Zerg's getting ready to take a lot of fights and feel pretty strong. Terran is starting to get back to where they needed to be earlier. The Niduses and the Defiler mounts are coming up here. That's when those 2 finish and the Niduses connect and Consume's done. That's really where we give a nod to Zerg being into the late game in TVZ.
Yeah, that's really the important moment that you have to live to as Zerg. Now, he's taking a lot of damage. Oh my god, his mutas get very, very fragile there. JyJ continuing to macro very cleanly. He needs to add a bunch of barracks right now. Yeah, it looks like he is getting up a little bit there. He did get a supply block, unfortunately, so we see his minerals going up quite a bit at the moment. And yeah, he's going to try to get that fixed up. But now is the moment where he is controlling the map, and he's going to need to roam about and kind of keep SoulKey in his base while SoulKey gets ready to try to break out of here with his Defiler tech.
So the hard part from the Terran's perspective is that you've got an army and you want to fight, but this Zerg will not give you a fight. They're going to try to turtle up. Very rarely do we see a Zerg get broken here. And I can only imagine Consume is that upgrade, little meters slowly ticking up. And once that's done, 1 Dark Swarm and you just never get in there. I'm sorry, what did we see happen over at the Terran's Natural? I think some buildings were destroyed.
So once you deal with the mutas, it's actually the best thing you can do. Like, if you want to play like a really big, good macro game, you actually want to kill your turrets. Because the turrets that you have to put up to defend mutas actually slow your mining. And the ones even near your barracks you want to end up killing off. Because, like, look, you could fit more barracks in there if you don't have a bunch of turrets in the way. So he's just kind of cleaning everything right now. He has a ton of vessels. He knows the mutas are super hurt. The mutas will probably be on anti-drop for the rest of the game. So when you're not worrying about them, you can just... It's like when you kill your own shield battery after you hold a Ling attack in PvZ, right?
You know, I never knew that was a thing Terran did. It makes total sense. That's just cool. You know, I feel like we don't see that in every game either, so that's kind of cool.
It's very rare to see, but in theory, it's the right thing. Now, SoulKey's coming in, but you have to get rid of these right away, or you feel really dumb for killing those turrets.
Yeah, I was going to say. That's definitely an unfortunate moment to have those mutas come in and abuse you like that. We do have games where the Terran stops making double vessel and makes either 2, 4, and I've even seen one game where there were 6 drop ships. But the idea is that then you drop into the main. I love this eraser move. This is so sick. Oh my god.
Dude, he got a lot too. He got a lot there. Oh my god. Doing a great job throwing down irradiates. Now that is very, very nice. The mutas are back though. Dude, he's punishing him for this move. And you're right, we don't see it often. But it is a good move, and now SoulKey is making it look like it's not a good move. I love it. I love this game.
Just for the uninitiated here, to break this down, you can cast a Radiate on any unit, but it doesn't do anything to mechanical units. So like a tank, as an example. So you can cast a Radiate on another vessel and then fly over and do damage. And this was like one of the moments that I experienced as a kid. in StarCraft 1 where like a Korean player did this to me and I'm like, whoa, StarCraft is a crazy game and there's so much I don't know.
yeah.
Like I remember the first time someone did it and I'm just like, what is happening? And now I think JyJ is going to try to break in. Now, losing that many drones is devastating. That was about a third of the Zerg's drones. Maybe even a little bit more because he sent more drones out to try to refill that. It's unusual for Terran to get such a clean lead, I guess is the right way to just express it. Keep it simple here, just to kind of come out ahead really off of a fairly basic tactic in the game. And you notice one irradiate, Scourge tend to kind of snuggle up to each other. So when you irradiate one, both of them feel like they're being attacked, and they are. They're both taking damage. So then they both chase the vessel and then both die. And so if you have a bunch of vessels, and it does seem like if JyJ is going to win this best of 5, it's going to be with a bunch of vessels. He's very good at drawing the Scourge in, creating that opening, and then getting further ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's much better to irradiate a Scourge than to lose the vessel to the Scourge. So, you know, it's not the best target, but it's definitely worthwhile to do sometimes. Now, he's eaten some big plagues. We actually see a lot of siege tanks being made, which I think against this type of play is not normally great, but I think on Silphid it's a pretty strong move. Like the map, if you can kind of control the center of the map as Terran, it opens up like 5 bases for you, and it makes the push distances actually very small to get to your opponent.
There might be a tank stuck in the main. Sometimes it's hard to get tanks out where infantry can kind of slip through all the little cracks in your base. Yeah, I like the tank play. I'm also not quite used to seeing it in games like this. Terran is just going to continue to run. He doesn't want to give him the opportunity to plague this. And that's funny. He just puts down 2 Dark Swarms. Maybe he can run in there with Zerglings later. We're going to find out.
I tell you, that's the one thing that...
he's shelling the hatches.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's kind of crazy if you can reach into there to where the hatcheries were placed. But it looks like some Dark Storms will come down. Throws down the D-Matrix. Still can't save it. Dude, cracklings are crazy.
Yeah. Once Zerg get the Adrenal upgrade, the amount of damage that they do, and it's so funny because Zerglings are, I mean, they're probably the best unit in the game, or at least arguably the best unit in the game.
Top 3 for sure.
Top 3 for sure, but they do a lot of damage early on, and then right when you think they would be obsolete, they get an upgrade that lets them attack so fast that pretty much any unit in the game can be killed by them.
Yeah, they counter literally everything at that point, man. It's crazy. It's like they start countering Archons and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Ultra's coming out with these Lings. Some Irradiates go down, but SoulKey trying to get a good engagement, trying to get the surround, putting his Irradiated Ultras on top of that bio. Down comes some Scourge as well. Nice! Gets a couple vessels there. But JyJ, in the meantime, he's controlling a lot of the map and has gotten up to 4 bases.
Yeah, this is pretty brutal. Again, Zerg does not have a 4th. Doesn't mean he can't get a 4th, but when you think about a 4th base for a Zerg, where exactly is it supposed to be? Maybe you could take the top right, but that's a mineral only. That doesn't have gas, and that doesn't really serve the Zerg well into the future. Really, mineral bases are almost afterthoughts for a Zerg in the late game. You want a base with gases, and both of these bases that have gases that are being taken, they're very, very pushable for the Terran. They're not hard to get to, especially with siege tanks at play. You can put siege tanks sort of in the middle to the side of these bases and shell them from where they're kind of out of reach. I mean, this is a great way to approach this game here from JyJ. I think he's going to be in a pretty comfortable position coming forward here.
Yeah, I gotta say, he's really showing what I was talking about before with how strong his actual SK Terran is. This has been like a pretty standard game. You know, not one of these factory openers, but he's nailing his upgrades, he's keeping pressure on, he's expanding like mad, he's keeping that money down. Look at this, he's up 80 supply right now.
Yeah, not the craziest thing in a TVC. The Terran eventually spikes up in supply that looks probably more absurd than any kind of supply differential in any matchup in the game, but the Zerg can really hang on with very, very little. It's also interesting, we've passed so many SK Terran games, we've seen Flash do it, we've seen Light do it countless times. Watching JyJ do it, it is kind of his own style, the way he sets up positions, the way he leaves a few vessels out here and there for tactical purposes. Even having this infantry isolated down here with a tank didn't fully plug up the hole, but you can see he kind of creates additional difficulty, even targeting that one weakened Ultralisk. I love it. It's making it so difficult for the Zerg to really get anywhere. Basically, the Zerg sealed himself off, teched up, powered up, and the Terran, for the most part, didn't overextend. Instead, he made the map a muddy and treacherous place to maneuver through. And I think, you know, and I've never really paid much attention to this map in a late game situation like this, but it does seem like it's actually pretty bad for Zerg. If you let JyJ get into a position like this, there are actually no good bases that Zerg can take from here on out, because the only bases that are easily accessible are located in the middle, and if a Terran can control the middle, that's easy. The only other place Zerg could maybe expand to would be the bottom right main, and there's no way that JyJ is going to let him go there.
Well, this is the tough thing about Silphid in this matchup, getting that fourth base. It's just some maps are like this, where it's very, very difficult to find the right location for it. And we're seeing SoulKey have to deal with that right now. Look at this swarm of vessels. This is insane. Like, you need 2 Terran players to deal with this many vessels. The amount of irradiates he has that could be cast right now is absurd. And SoulKey, like, he doesn't have anything going on the map. He's losing that fourth base that he had just momentarily made. JyJ has full vision of everything. There's a million vessels out. SoulKey needs to make this game really dirty really quickly. Like, we need plagues, we need popping vessels. It's so important.
I wouldn't even mind seeing EMP upgraded here. When you're this far ahead, EMP the Defiler and then irradiate it with another vessel, so they just can't even get any value beyond that. Because you can always irradiate a Defiler, but it'll get out whatever it needs to get out. But
it's actually...
Go ahead.
The funny thing about that, because I tried to do that sometimes, you have to EMP irradiate EMP, because they actually, the irradiate takes long enough that they can just eat enough to cast the spells again.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so it's a little bit hard to do, but when you have this many vessels, 100%, there's no reason not to get every upgrade.
I remember seeing EMP used by Nada the first time I saw that. I was watching StarCraft with my brother in the bedroom we shared. We were like, so sick. He's so good in the EMP, the Defiler. This game should be almost over. You know, this is really just Terran comfortably trading out. You know, Terran doesn't have a 5th or a 6th base, but he's not going to be stopped anytime soon. Here we go. The Eraser is back. He's going to come in here, and that's going to be it. Leaves the game before further humiliation. JyJ is now up 2-1, meaning he's just one more win away from going on to the Final Four of Season 15 of the ASL.
Wow, what a game out of him there. You really see the power that he brings with his SK Terran. I'm like really inspired watching that. I want to get on the ladder right now, Tastosis. I'm gonna go. You go ahead and finish this. And SoulKey, he has to be like, oh man, because SoulKey's very good at that stage of the game as well. But this time, he really did get quite outplayed.
He did. It was a great game from JyJ. But I will say, I think an easier map in the late game. Seems like you get that far along and the Zerg is in a little bit of trouble. Some maps are like that. Not all maps are created evenly for all races in all periods of a game. And that map is certainly one of them. This was, I think, the start to SoulKey's troubles. I think SoulKey could have managed to push out and take another base, but the drones kind of bunch up. You know, you can't mine move into a Nidus. Normally when you see workers flee, the player right-clicked on another mineral patch on the map. And in this game, if you're trying to get them into a Nidus, they just start to bump into each other, which is the perfect moment to use that eraser tactic, which is where the 2 vessels irradiate each other, because vessels can't cast spells on themselves. And it happened again here. And it's just like, the Zerg has already lost so many drones. It looks like another 5 or so get picked off again. And, you know, a lot of patience just exhibited back there from JyJ. I'm starting to feel like JyJ can take this. Let's not forget the one game that he lost was the weird build that was supposed to be a bit of a rug pull in mid-game for SoulKey, but SoulKey basically scouted it and handled it probably as well as any Zerg in the whole world could have. I think if JyJ can rely on standard play for one of the next 2 games, I think he's got a good shot.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that. And the maps are not that weird, like Dark Origin and Retro. I mean, those are pretty playable normally, I think. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll see, can JyJ finish off SoulKey?
솔직히 인간적으로 두 개 다 가졌어요 baby 칼로리 제로 맛은 제대로 그래 걱정 빼고 고민 빼고 맘소리 빼고 This is zero life This is zero life 빼건 뺐어 질성제이다 제로 맛있어 제대로 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자 제로 칠성사이다 제로
참해봐 새로운 걸 참해봐 짜릿한 걸 참할수록 더 새로운 날이 보여 시작해 짜릿하게 참해봐 시작해 색다르게 참해봐 매일 참해봐 새로운 날을 시작은 새로 짜릿함을 참해 매일 새로움을 참해 너도 탐세봐 탐세로
드디어 카운트다운을 시작합니다.
4, 3, 2, 1.
떴다. 제로 칼로리로 기분까지 가볍게. 밀키스 제로.
It's a picture of SoulKey. Welcome back, everyone. This has been a great series so far. That's so funny. I looked at the picture first and looked at the words on it later. There he is. Is it the drawing or is it the man? It's hard to tell. We're going to go into this next match. It's been a great series. JyJ is ahead. SoulKey, I think he's feeling the pressure, man. It's great when you outmaneuver a tricky play, but if they keep beating you in standard play, even speaking from experience going to tournaments, it's a lot scarier when they can just beat you with straight up stuff.
I would definitely agree with that. Like, I mean, there's a certain fear factor with cheese, but it's like more percentage. When someone outplays you just by surviving like that, you're like, oh, that's brute force. That's something that like no amount of tricks after a certain amount of time is going to get you out of that one.
So Dark Origin will be map number 4, and there's a little bit of room to breathe here for JyJ. Obviously, in a best of 5, you would like to end at 3-1. You never want to go to map 5 if you can. So let's see what happens here. So far, SoulKey, nothing too tricky coming out of this just yet. Let's see if he tries to do something wild as we go to Dark Origin.
So in the bottom right, we have JyJ. Top left, we have SoulKey. And it's time for SoulKey to bring out his best stuff, man. See what he's got.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm not saying that SoulKey should cheese, but he actually does cheese a little bit more than a lot of the other Zergs. And kind of weird cheeses too. I'm not just saying like a Hydra Bust or something funny like that, like you see a lot of Zergs do against Protoss, where like, yeah, it's pretty common. But I don't know that he's going to do it this time around. One of the games that always sticks out to me for SoulKey is the game he 7-pooled a Terran, and then it failed, and then he won. And then when he was interviewed, he was like, well, that's what I wanted to do. And the enemy were just like, what? Like, I don't understand anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that one always sticks out to me as well. It was against Light, I remember, on that, like, road kill map or whatever in KSL. Yeah. Well, he's SoulKey, man. he's definitely got his own way of looking at things. I did see that map data that popped up on screen. So far, Zergs are dominating here with a 6-1 map record, but I mean, the map is still very new, and so I wouldn't really put too much stock into that right now. You know, there's nothing about this map that stands out to me where I just think, wow, how could you ever beat Zerg here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the middle's hard to control, but to go off what you were saying...
it's hard to get over, but it's hard for Zerg to get 4 gas, right? Like, it's not very easy.
Yeah, no, I think it's really just a matter of what race can organically control the middle of the map. It's probably a little bit favored if you go into a longer game. I'm sure we're going to have many more games on this map to unpack. To go off what you were saying, though, Tastosis, I do think it's worth pointing out that, you know, early data especially can be quite misleading, but data in general isn't always the best way to look at StarCraft.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have a race that's never won on a map and we've had like 40 or 50 games, that's something worth noting. But a lot of times, you know, we'll have, as an example, Flash will create, I think, unfair-looking data for Terran, where if Flash wins, you know, let's say a half or 40% of ASLs, suddenly it looks like Terran is dominating, when really it's mostly this one guy. You know?
Yeah.
And we also have data where it's like, well, there's been 5 games played on this map, but it's 4-1. Is it really favored for that race? I don't think it's fair to make that call yet.
Sure. No, I agree. And actually, I remember there was specifically many years ago, a big argument I had on Team Liquid with some people, where I said Python is super favored Protoss versus Terran. And then people were like, look at the map stats. And the thing is, Flash was playing so much at the time that he skewed the stats into Terran's favor, where when you took away his stats, it like went heavily towards Protoss. And now we look at Python, it's like, yes, a Terran will never beat a Protoss there. You know? So it's like, the Flash thing especially really pops up. And a lot of people's stats in ASL are actually skewed by Flash as well. Like when you look at Heroes ZVT, it's like a losing record. It's because he's played Flash so many times.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to put that out there, because I know there are a lot of stats junkies, and I just want to say, it's not that it's not valuable, but it's not ever the whole picture.
Yeah. Now, this game, he's going back to what he did in Game 1 and 2. He's gone for like that really quick factory, and then the command center inside of his main base. So really hard for SoulKey to get a feel for exactly what's going on. And, well, he's only made 1 vulture. Nothing, I mean... He's mining a lot of gas.
There's an armory underneath the portrait.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes more sense. So this, I mean, it could be a mech build, or it could just be that same type of, you know, 1 factory Goliath play. Wouldn't that be wild to see again?
Yeah. Now, you know, I was talking earlier about how we're never going to see mech again. I will stand by what I said from Game 2. We won't see that build again, but maybe he just does an actual mech build.
Oh, you're right.
Now, I do want to say, and give me your thoughts on this, and well, I'll just say it. Wouldn't it make more sense to do an actual mech build on Game 2 and then do the weird mech into bio build on Game 4?
Huh.
What do you think?
That's actually, that's an interesting take. Like, yeah, I guess for setting up a series, maybe it was the map specifically that he wanted to do the bio build on because of the flat natural. That's the only thing I can really think, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that would make more sense, because the less known build to make it look like the more known build that you've already done. That in a way that would be a bit trickier. But as is, it looks like he's just doing a standard Goliath build opener here, just going for that 2 base mech, getting a bunch of Goliaths out. And there's a lot of ways that you can play this. You can go into like a big Goliath all-in with some siege tanks off 5-fact. You can actually, like, if you don't lose a lot of SCVs, you can definitely go 6-fact with this as well. You could just go for an upgrade Terran type of mech play as well, where you just kind of... Like, you can play it like TVP, honestly, if you want. Like, you just open with Goliaths instead of Vultures, and then just kind of go into, you know, 3 base, 2-1, you know, make plenty of siege tanks, run around with Vultures a little bit, and then push out.
So, yeah, let's watch this game unfold. I mean, it's 3-hatched Goliath build out so far. Looks to be just your actual... Like, I'm serious about meching build. I do wonder what role this is going to play with controlling the center. If you guys are tuning in to the later part of the ASL, which I know there are a decent number of people that do that kind of catch up on the the hyper part of the tournaments and don't follow the whole thing. This map has become so much about kind of trying to end the game right before it gets into endgame, because all the expansions that you would naturally grow into are close to the middle, and so it's almost impossible for the game to exist for that long. And maybe that's one of the ideas at play here for why JyJ wants to do this. You know, mech, it's not always a style that you necessarily want to have in like a 25-minute game, right? A lot of times it's supposed to push the game to a limit where the Zerg has to either fully fight back and win the game back or lose forever.
You know what, Tasteless? I think my brain just opened a little bit between listening to you talk about kind of the way the map has been played and then also just kind of thinking about other maps where mech is good. And, you know, you've mentioned, like, the middle control is so important here. That's like whoever controls that center kind of like can dictate a couple of the bases that are supposed to be their opponent's bases a bit better. And when you think about it, mech can be really good at controlling an area like that. Like, you're not getting over those bridges while siege tanks are there. And guess what? The bases at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, you're not getting those if mech is in the middle with siege tanks. And guess what? If mech is in the middle with siege tanks to the top right, SoulKey's not going to be able to take that. So, like, you might be able to keep SoulKey down on 3 bases forever with mech on this map. That's actually, that sounds like a possibility to me.
Yeah, it seems to make sense, doesn't it? And
it does, yeah.
So for those who haven't really seen that much of this map, because sometimes you can look at the mini-map and it doesn't really tell the story, you don't have easy access. If you're Terran, you don't have easy access to the bottom left. If you're Zerg, you don't have easy access to the top right. So I want to eliminate, you know, that illusion when looking at the map, that this could be more of a top versus bottom. This map organically becomes a left versus right, or east versus west. And so what we're talking about is basically these 2 expansions that are in the middle. That if you expand there, a guy in the middle of the map can just set up tanks and shell your workers from the low ground. And you really don't have a lot of recourse, because if you try to get to them, you have to cross 3 bridges. And one of the biggest features of StarCraft compared to all other RTSs is the difficulty in actually traversing a bridge or a narrow area. Which, by the way, some people hate, but I think as one of the things that actually makes the game interesting. Because you can't just, you know,
you can.
The units don't spill through small areas like liquid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually, it's a thing to do. By the way, we should talk about all the burrow that we've seen, because we don't see burrow that often, but that's a great move against mech, because you just don't get mobile detection until pretty late game. So you have all these Zerglings that are giving perfect vision of where the Goliaths are, and also one blocking a fast third, right? So, like, when he goes to take that third, that's going to be very annoying. He's probably going to have to build a turret there. Maybe he'll have scans. But yeah, you see as he puts the turret down, the Ling actually moves way to the side. So JyJ knows what's going on here. But that gives such great scouting intel for SoulKey. 100% worth it.
Yeah, and this is one of these games. I got to mess with Zerg and Terran. I guess we all played all the races in the early days, right? But I remember people doing this back then, and it was always a funny thing where you'd see Zergs keep making mutas, even though the Goliaths are supposed to beat them, and the Terran just keeps making Goliaths. And sometimes you'd see the mutas actually just be high enough in numbers and upgraded enough that they could actually overpower the Goliaths. And I always found it so confusing, and I would watch my Clan League matches with my team and see this happen, and it was never clear to me what you're supposed to do. But the Zerg already has +1 air attack. I would imagine armor's not far away. We may have an attack on the Goliaths as the Terran tries to take a third. Keep in mind, we've talked about the center play, and we're not there yet, obviously. But there's, I think, a very big incentive for SoulKey to try to actually end the game really before Terran can get to the part of the game that he wants to play through.
Yeah, if he could kill him, that would be amazing. I don't think he's going to be able to. The Hydras are going to come down, and maybe that's where an opportunity can kind of open up for him.
Now you'll notice
these Hydras coming in, that could be very scary.
The amount of damage you end up taking from the Goliaths as they just stand there, because they can shoot at such a remarkable range. Now the Hydra's come in here. This doesn't look right to me at all, Artosis. We see the Hydra's not fighting the Mutas. The Mutas are going to be fighting these turrets while the Goliaths beat them down. And look, I mean, the turrets, it's great to kill them, but if you're not killing Goliaths, by the way, 1-1 is done. If you're not killing the Goliaths, I don't feel like you're going to get value long term. And now I think these Mutas are basically trapped in here. I think they literally can't go out the way they came in. And I don't know where they can escape through.
Well, maybe at this point you don't escape. Maybe at this point you sacrifice them, killing as much as you can. Honestly, they're doing pretty decent damage in the main base. Obviously, you don't want to lose them all at this point, but JyJ has done a good job of kind of keeping them stuck.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they're trapped almost indefinitely until there's another solution. He can slowly just filter Goliaths back here and whittle them down. There's another set of Hydras coming in here. I do feel like, you know, we're focusing on the Mutas, but it seems like the bigger mistake has been the usage of the Hydras. They're not really getting value here.
Well, I think now he's going to do something. He's bringing the Hydras to fight those Goliaths, and that'll open up an opportunity for the Mutas to be useful here as well. I think this is a point where you can kind of send those in. And, well, I mean, he's getting an okay trade here, and with the flank coming up, SoulKey, he's taking a big advantage.
So the Mutas are going to be cleaned up, but already a new fire has been started, and I think it's one that basically JyJ can't put out. In fact, the Hydras can probably snipe the command center. I don't think this is going to be able to escape. And, you know, JyJ, this will, if he loses this, and I think at this point in time it's fair to say he probably will lose this, it'll be the second loss in the series off the back of opening with mech units, in this case, committing to them.
Yeah, I actually, honestly, I like the idea of the mech units here, but SoulKey just kind of outdid him. He didn't defend his main well enough. GG. SoulKey ties up this series, and we're going to a game number 5.
No more mech, JyJ. You get back to bio. You know, it's cool that he's trying to show a full range and a full style, and it's also really fun that he has this kind of origin build order that then can go and branch into so many different directions. But it's just obvious that SoulKey has no concern that, you know, JyJ is going to go mech. I mean, if he goes mech, it seems like SoulKey just wins. SoulKey, I want to say, for a little bit there, almost sloppy, but it just seems to work out. By the way, pulling the Goliaths back into the main, it almost seemed like that was part of the tactic, because that way then the Hydras come in, they can kill off the tanks unprotected by the Goliaths, and ultimately your anti-air composition can do nothing against mass Hydras on the ground.
Yeah. This was really cool. Like, there was a lot of tactics here. Some of it seemed like it wasn't working for a bit, and then it did work. And, like, I mean, look at these dives that we saw from the Mutalisks. When they went into the main base, like, they did get trapped a bit, but they were dealing damage. The first Hydra attack that we saw over this bridge, though, was, like, very poor.
Yeah, the first one was a little bit weird, but watch the Mutas come in here, and I think there's a little bit of a method to the madness of SoulKey. Yeah, he did kind of bleed off some Hydras there, but some of those Hydras did kill off some of the Goliaths. It wasn't a total loss. And then we have Goliaths trying to wrap around, but at this point in time in the game, not a single extra Mutalisk is going to be made. He's only making Hydras. They're upgraded, they have range, they have speed. And you don't have a ton of tanks. And I think when you see Goliaths in your main like this, you're very focused on trying to make more Goliaths and trying to just take care of this. And another tank gets sniped. Oh, sorry, never mind. I thought a tank was going to get sniped there, but you get the idea. Eventually, there's not enough to deal with a full-on tech switch onto ground.
Yeah, if he could have dealt with the Mutas in his main base a little bit quicker, I think that he would have stabilized everything, and we would have actually gotten like a really epic big macro game. But SoulKey just killed him like right before he could really stabilize anything. You know, when mech goes on 3 bases, it can get scary for Zerg, right? If they're still making Hydras and Mutas, it's like suddenly they just can't kill you anymore. They have to think about the later game and either mass expanding or, you know, maybe going queens or something like that.
Okay, well, we're going to be going to a break, and we're going to come to the final game. And Artosis, you were right. This was a real banger of a match, man. Just a full-on 5-game best-of-5. We're redeeming ASL after the one-sided ZVZ where Jaedong dies, and Hero's going to wait for the winner of these two. This has been so fun. Such different techs coming here from JyJ. I don't think JyJ can mech again, but I feel like it's a little bit scary that SoulKey also knows that, right? Does SoulKey have any kind of tricky play to try to hard counter or cheese out someone who's going to go for bio? We're going to find out after the short break.
솔직히 인간적으로 두 개 다 가졌어요 baby 칼로리 제로 맛은 제대로 그래 걱정 빼고 고민 빼고 맘소리 빼고 This is zero life This is zero life 뺄 건 뺐어 질성제이다 제로 맛있어 제대로 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살살 제로 칠성사이다 제로
참해봐 새로운 걸 참해봐 짜릿한 걸 참할수록 더 새로운 날이 보여 시작해 짜릿하게 참해봐 시작해 색다르게 참해봐 매일 참해봐 새로운 날을 시작은 제로 짜릿함을 참해 매일 새로움을 참해 너도 탐세봐 탐세로
드디어 카운트다운을 시작합니다.
4, 3, 2, 1.
떴다. 제로 칼로리로 기분까지 가볍게. 밀키스 제로.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to close out the round of 8, and what a round of 8 it's been. This has been just a fantastic series. I'm not even sure who I want to have move on, Tastosis.
I mean, I'll take JyJ, man. I want to see more of his Terran versus Zerg. I want to see him play against Hero. At best of 7, that would be insane. But you know what? You're right. The games where he's gone Goliaths haven't gone well for him. I would say that his most impressive game, in my opinion, by far, is that Silphid game. He just put out a master class in a macro Terran vs. Zerg. And we're going to Retro. You can do that again. Okay? Retro is a solid macro map. So I really want to see just his SK Terran play.
Yeah, you know, will we have any crazy cheese here from SoulKey? Will we have anything that's intended to slip JyJ up? It seems like SoulKey's wanted to play straight up in every game, but when JyJ plays the most straight up style, he seems to win. So it's an interesting predicament that SoulKey's in. We're going to find out who wins this best of 5, guys. There's no more time. Let's go to Retro.
All right, top left corner, we have JyJ. And in the top right corner, we have SoulKey. Okay, so, you know, the back of the natural of JyJ does point towards SoulKey, so Mutila's Craftsman might do well because of that, but other than that, no big opinions as far as the spawns go. I guess the natural third base for JyJ is super close to SoulKey, so that could be a little bit tricky to deal with.
This is actually a really cool map in that it's very simple. There are not a lot of bases. There are minerals in the middle. They almost never play a role, and if they do start to play a role in this game, we'll certainly get to that, but kind of hard to imagine a TVZ where they're going to be fighting over that. But we've had lots of maps that have this excess of bases, and what's interesting about this map is there's just not that many bases, which really means you have to fight, and if you can't expand somewhere, there's probably not many other places to go to.
Yeah, that's like the fewer expansions on the map is hearkening to older times, and actually has been very interesting. I do wonder where it's going to end up. Whether, like, because eventually we're going to know, are 16 base maps or 12 base maps better for the game, right? For 4-player maps, right?
Right.
Because that is a question right now. We've been doing 16 base maps very, very oftentimes. Like the best 4-player map, everyone agrees is Vermeer. Like that's the best map that we have in the entire world right now. It's just straight up. It's super balanced in all the matchups. It plays really well, really dynamically, and it's got 16 bases. But we are seeing so many more of these 12 base maps pop up. And honestly, I've loved Retro so far. We've had really awesome games on Retro.
Yeah, Retro's been a great map. I mean, it's always worth offering maps like this. And even throwing out a kind of a dud base in the middle, I think is also a welcome addition here.
You call it a dud base, Tasteless, but I have seen a lot of Terran versus Protoss games where that is the 4th or the 5th base for Terran.
Well, that's because that's kind of cool because it's not the same as having like what you see at every other base, which is a nice arc of minerals and a big healthy gas, but having a kind of inefficient clump of resources that at least, like, for instance, in Terran versus Protoss, the Terran certainly is going to be the one to try to fight for that, but it's not ideal. It's not a weird base where once you get it, you're going to have the resources to fund it, and Protoss can never reclaim it, right?
Yeah,
I think it's important to have that. I think Fighting Spirit was one of the first maps to offer a very weird semi-functional base in the middle, which is that it was sort of protected by walls, but there was no way to really efficiently expand there unless you made like 2 nexuses, 2 command centers, or 2 hatches, and even then, you were long-distance mining with some of the minerals. We're very used to having a certain way that things are presented as far as expansions go. If you go and look at the really old maps like Boneyard, like even pre-Lost Temple maps, you'll see that the expansions are super janky, and they didn't really pay attention to where the minerals were. And after a couple years of the game being out, they basically concluded that there should be, what is the actual exact number of minerals? Is it 9 in the main base?
Yeah, 9 in the main. 9. Yeah. By the way, this looks the same as those other builds, but it's a 2-port build this game, right? Yeah. He's made the command center inside his base every factory game to set this build up. That is why he did it, Tasteless.
Now, if he loses here after going double starport, now this is not... Okay, I was going to say, is this one link?
If that had slipped in, man, then SoulKey's in the round of 4. This is crazy, though, right now. This is like such tricky play. Because literally, guys, every single game that he went command center in the main base, like, you're eating a little bit of... You can make your command center on low ground when you go factory. Like, that, it's more normal to make it on low ground. But he ate that disadvantage every single game so that if he got to game 5, he could go 2-port Wraith. So, this is set up very well, and this is the only game we don't see a Hydralisk Den. The other games, Hydralisk Den. Here,
that's right.
None. So he's not going to have any anti-air to start. These Wraiths are going to fly across. He hasn't seen them yet.
Oh.
What? Why does?
What?
Oh, okay. He's looking for the Overlord.
Find the Overlord.
I'm like, if he kills the Zerglings, this is the worst usage of these ever.
Yeah, this is literally #1 worst possible play here. Now, you don't have to scout this to know that it's Wraiths. The Wraiths have already shown themselves. He has killed one Overlord. He can, I think, just in time kill one more before the Mutas, or at least all of them, will start. Let's see. He sees it.
Yeah.
Spire.
He certainly gets that. The Spire's not done, man. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That's some serious damage. 2 already. Drawing his burrow already! Are you kidding me? This is crazy!
Dude, this is such good usage of Burrow here. To just come and get this. Now, he's going to kill another Overlord. There may be Scourge or Mutas hatching right over at this. But he's going to have to get out soon, right? He forces another Burrow. Now, look, the fact that they're not mining is great. Okay? I'm not going to knock on that. I mean, it's too bad he didn't kill any. Now, Cloak is on the way. Getting those Overlords is pretty nice. Zerg's about to be supply blocked again if he doesn't make another Overlord. You can see the Overlord in the bottom right is actually being sent down to kind of an obscure corner in the bottom right quadrant of the map. It's unlikely Wraiths will go there, but he just wants to try to be careful. It's paramount to the Zerg that he musters enough Mutas and Scourge to try to fight this. And he's getting a second barrack, so this is a 1-base play.
You know, I think it needs to. I think he needs to stay on the 1 base 4 a little bit. Now, is someone that's really a master of this, which he should be if he's doing it for his life being on the line right now, can bring this into a macro game. Like Leda would absolutely bring this into an expansion off of Academy 2 Barracks and 2 Port Wraith. But SoulKey is playing really well right now. I love his 3rd hatchery. I love the fact that he had Burrow and didn't take massive drone losses. Because he should have. He should have taken massive drone losses, which is just kind of crazy. And now there's Overlord speed. Like, SoulKey's looking really good right now.
Yeah, SoulKey seems to be pretty comfortable dealing with this. It's funny because I wasn't even aware that Burrow had been upgraded, but the Burrow play is a really nice insurance play in case something like this comes up. As you go, all right, well, you can't see me now. You know, Burrow for Zerg, it's great if they go Wraiths. It's great if they go mech. It's great if Protoss is going for Speed Shuttle early on and trying to do that kind of cheesy play, because those comps that require very specific types of units early on oftentimes don't have detection with them for Protoss or Terran, and so it's a great way to go against something like this. And it seems like SoulKey wants to take this head on. He's making more and more Mutalisks. He's getting Scourge as well.
Now, we're almost up to 11 Wraiths, which is probably how many you're going to make. I would imagine that he's going to stop after that and just focus on his bio. And that's going to give him a really strong force. One thing you have to realize is you don't necessarily need to consistently micro against the Mutas with the Wraiths, right? It doesn't have to be a slugfest that you see a lot of Terrans force. There's also the way where you just kind of sit the Wraiths over your Marine pile, and it's a punish, right? Like you can't do regular micro against the Marines because the Wraiths are firing every time you come in, all of them.
So the Marines are going to come out. Now, again, a one-base play always looks weird, right? Modern Brood War, we're a quarter of a century into this game, and it should look weird because, you know, right now Zerg still has double the income the Terran has. Think about that. You never have more of an income in StarCraft than when one player has one base and the other player has two. That player with two bases is getting so much more in here. And this means that really the Zerg has to last. Terran has to make something happen. I'm worried that we're almost past that point where there's anything Terran can do. I mean, 3 sunken colonies seems like enough to just deal with the Marines alone. The Wraiths are really anti-air. Wraiths don't do that much damage to ground. They're very strong versus air. The conundrum that Wraiths experience is that they are very weak. They're very brittle. So if they can be spotted, they can't really fight against anything. But of course, they have that ninja play by having Cloak available.
11 Wraiths here will one-volley a lot of stuff. Like you see, they're one-volleying Hydras, they're one-volleying Overlords. Oh, a Queen is out! He got a Queen. Tastosis, we're going to see Ensnare.
Oh my god, it's so smart. Of course. Of course, it's so obvious once the Queen comes out. Yeah, hide the Queen. This is kind of like the Dark Archon for Maelstrom to catch the Mutas. It's kind of the same idea. It's like, if he just gets... Okay, now he's going to try to... Okay, this is it. Does he? Oh,
he missed!
Whips it! What? I didn't see that coming. This is crazy.
Oh my god, I can't believe he missed it. That is insanity. And now the Wraiths are being microed so heavily here. Now, there's enough sunks that you're actually not going to break through with the Marines. So the Marines do have to pull back. He did not break him. But honestly, that could have been a situation where you lose as JyJ, so I can't be disappointed for him.
Well, I think if he does this right, he can kind of zone the Mutas. He is one-shotting everything that hatches. These are all dying so that so that the hatch will last a little bit longer. He has a second Queen. That means a second opportunity. It's 75 energy, if I remember right, for Ensnare, which is honestly pretty cheap. So that's going to be just around the corner. There are still 3 sunken colonies. Units are still rallying, and JyJ wants to end this game. I don't know that he can.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Like, the Ensnares are going to be incredibly important. They do slow down the firing rate of Terran as well, of the Marines as well, rather. So it's like a really, really big deal if you hit those Ensnares. A lot of Sunkens are being made. He does not currently have Lurkers. He has the Lurker tech, but that one Lurker was killed off. And again, everything that pops out of these eggs is dying, which is so painful.
he almost has enough to one-shot Mutas. You could see if the Muta's even reasonably damaged, it's going to be killed. Now, we have another moment for the ensnare. I don't know how this works. Do you want to ensnare on the Wraith? Is that the play? Yeah. So what happened
That's
was
what you want to do right there.
yeah, I wasn't sure if you had to hit the ground or if there's a chance to miss, but I guess it's just like Psystorm or Lockdown or anything else where you can just target that. But here's the thing. It doesn't last that long. And
No.
if you don't take a fight, it hasn't really done anything except maybe stop the Wraiths from chipping away at you. A Lurker comes out. I think with one more Lurker, maybe even without, you can't get in there. So I think that Terran has to expand.
Yeah, you know what? The Lurkers actually do really screw this up. Like, he's getting his first Vessel now. But, like, one Vessel doesn't break through multiple Lurkers plus Sunkens. He's done a great job with the Wraiths. He's done a great job with the Marines. He's definitely hurt SoulKey. But SoulKey is still in this game. And I do believe you're right, Tastosis. Like, I think you just need to make a command center here.
Oh my god, he's sending the Overlords with us. A really good Irradiate here. And Ensnare, and I don't know who wins this fight now. How many Mutas is this? It's about 10. But I guess, if you have 11 Wraiths and Marines can reinforce, it seems like the Ensnare was basically going to be perfect if the first one hit, and now he's sort of sticking with his tech. Oh,
yeah.
Man, what a game. Turret burns down, by the way. Terran's going to mine out in a little bit, but a new base is up. This puts pressure on Zerg. Zerg needs to take a third expansion. We're almost 13 minutes into this game. Zerg has not started a third base. Terran's just finishing up their first base. Oh my god, great snipe on the drone. The value the Wraiths have brought is incredible. I wouldn't mind seeing Parasite, but as I say that, I remember now that medics have, is it called Restoration? Is that what the ability's called?
Yeah, something you never have to deal with.
Yeah, something I've never thought about, but...
yeah. No, it's a good point. He probably doesn't have Restoration right now. No one ever thinks to really upgrade it, but it might be something that you're going to need if Parasites start coming out. Look at this, though. Utilizing the Wraiths to kill the Lurkers. How insane. We've never really seen a game quite like this. He's really taking, like, Wraith Marine and doing his own thing with it. This is something we normally only see from Leda, but JyJ, like, with his own style, is doing fantastically with it.
Yeah, Leda was this famous player, always going Wraiths. He's been going Wraiths for decades. And, there were times he looked great, but it was a bit of... People joke about it, let's be honest, But now we're kind of seeing this crazy moment where the Wraiths are kind of making it work. Now, the Wraith count is getting lower. I think maybe JyJ was a little bit too cavalier, but I guess you can't really try to snipe with these Wraiths once the Ensnare is on there. Another set of Marines spill down here. They're going to take out that 3 o'clock base, Tastosis.
Dude, that's insane. The kill on this base is maybe the biggest thing that's happened this game so far. SoulKey being kept on 2 bases. He does now have a hive, but it doesn't feel like he can really push anywhere. Their Radiates are starting to stack up. We now have the double gas from JyJ, so he's going to be able to go even more Science Vessels. Look at this. He's scanning around just to kind of make sure there's no other bases, and there's not.
And honestly, 2 bases is almost never enough. Oh my god. Revenge of the Wraiths. This is unreal. He's going to kill more Mutas. I think JyJ is going to go on, Tastosis. This is looking so over.
Yeah, he's starting to dominate the game. It's certainly had some good play back and forth. I think SoulKey still has a small chance right now to make something happen, but he's got to do it really, really soon.
Remember that SoulKey's pretty crafty in positions like this. He's a lot better than a lot of the other Zergs we've seen. Whoa, what? That was weird. He just bled that Vessel right off.
Yeah. Well, if you can really reduce that Vessel count, it's going to be hard to deal with the Lurkers. And, a Hydra, Lurker, Defiler, he only has 2 gas, so you can't really fit that much of it in. But maybe something like that can give him some space to get more bases up.
Slow Hydras. So painful to watch slow Hydras moving around. Maybe they just got speed, actually. Excuse me. But now we have so much infantry on the map. And remember that most games where you see Terran roaming like this, the Zerg's on 3 bases, probably getting a 4th. When you have this few gas, and Terran's on 2 bases about to take a 3rd, Irradiate's become really scary. Now, I think JyJ needs to be a little bit more attentive to his vessels. You really don't want to drop your vessel count because your vessels are going to carry you in this game.
Now, Defiler is ready. He's hitting those consumes. And here we go. He's going to get out here and try to break through this first group of Marines. He will be able to push through that. But JyJ now has a 3rd base mining. So right now it's 3 base against 2, but it's Terran with the 3 base. So a terrible situation here for SoulKey. He does kill the science facility. Hey, that's something. I saw that siege mode was making, though, so I think we're going to see a transition into siege tanks, which is going to be exactly what you want against these Hydras.
He's pushed out. He's made a little bit of headway. He's going to escort a drone down to this spot over here. I almost feel like JyJ made a mistake by backing off of this high ground. You know, we talked about the fact that there aren't a lot of maps here. I don't know why he's leaving this position. Like, all you want to do is make sure that they don't get a base over there, and you probably are going to win the game. There's literally 1 base Zerg can take right now. SoulKey is so on the ropes right now. There are so many vessels out. 1 lurker, it just is not enough. Oh, God. What am I looking
at? On a move command, it's plenty.
Yeah. It's actually too much. He irradiates that up there. There is a Defiler out. I think JyJ probably kicking himself, because had he left infantry up there and just kept fighting and reclaiming that and put some vessels, like we saw him do a great job of this on Silphid. We had like a tank somewhere, a vessel, some fire bats, Marines, and medics. Okay, here we go again. Another irradiate comes down. Now, I don't want to give up on SoulKey yet. There's a chance he fights back from this. But this is the most turtled and beaten up and bruised Zerg you could ever ask for in a TVZ. Considering that SoulKey lost versus JyJ when JyJ had to fight SoulKey, and SoulKey had a lot more resources in 2 of the games so far in tech that looked like this, this is a bit concerning. The 3rd gas has just come up. Zerg isn't mining from it yet. There's enough irradiates to start to make kind of everything else disappear. All SoulKey's doing right now is just trying to make any lurkers, anything at a ramp that can stop his opponent from getting up.
Yeah, and he's hiding a base down here at 6 o'clock, which I think is pretty smart. Like, if you can just somehow get another base up, this can turn into a victory. Right now, it certainly is not looking that way. He's on the very brink of death. It's something that I mention a lot in these commentaries. When you're playing a Defiler style, if you drop below 70 supply, that's where you're dead. Up to as long as you have 70, you can hold on just barely. But you can see huge. Like, it's getting harder and harder for him right now.
Well, he's going to just stem right in, and this is going to really strain the amount of Dark Swarms that are available here. He kills another Defiler upon it hatching on into that location. He stems, he comes up here. SoulKey's looking. Is he ready, though? It looks like the last lurker is going to be shot down.
Oh, man. The units in the main base, though, Tastosis, are doing so well. SoulKey holds the other attack. He did hit 1 plague up here. Okay, gets down the Dark Storm. Another drop ship comes in. Oh, he might actually have overextended there. Doesn't quite catch it. He really needs to clean this up. This drop in the main base is the most dangerous thing right now.
Yeah, it seems like SoulKey barely has enough Hydralisks. I think JyJ's gotten a little bit sloppy. This has got to be the most stressed out JyJ has ever been, because SoulKey gets 6 o'clock. That hatchery finishes. He's lost everything that was on the map. SoulKey has somehow, against all odds, survived up to this point in time. A Nidus is going to finish at 6. That'll make taking that base out potentially impossible. There's an easy access point from the 2nd base to the 3rd base, so you don't even really need a Nidus to get in there and keep that safe.
Well, I'm actually really stressed here, Tastosis, probably more than SoulKey and JyJ. SoulKey is doing the most miraculous holds ever, and he's actually closed up some of the supply gap, but his position is still really bad. JyJ has a lot. He's refilling siege tanks and vessels. He's keeping pressure on absolutely everywhere. But SoulKey is literally using every trick, every spell, every tactic that's available right now to try to just hold on a little bit longer.
Yeah, and he's barely doing that. The siege tanks are up, and remember, if JyJ overextends a couple of times, SoulKey will be in the lead. Like the fourth gas is up. By the way, the natural is mined out before the main because there were so many drops in this game.
And you know what, SoulKey, I mean, he is fighting back in a really good way. JyJ taking that bottom left, though, like his macro is just going to continue to march forward. And it's like, okay, well, you're holding here, SoulKey, right? Like, irradiates are going off, you're technically holding, but JyJ continues to just rally units in.
JyJ's vessel count is actually big enough that I think he can pull the same idea off that he's done in a couple of these games already, where he just starts to irradiate away the Zerg. The problem is that the Zerg has the workers that they need. And so I'm worried that, you know, especially with the plagues coming down on these vessels, I'm kind of changing my thought mid-cast here as I'm watching this unpack. I was going to say maybe he has enough vessels, but they're all plagued, or most of them are plagued. Zerg has enough gas to kind of produce and push out. The Terran's other bases are pretty far away. There isn't a really easy third base to take as Terran, which can be okay. But I'm worried that if Zerg can just open up the map a little, this bottom left base is going to go down. Terran's going to mine out the 9 o'clock base probably pretty quickly here, too.
Paceless. Like, he's scouted everything except 6 o'clock. JyJ has Marines in the bottom right. Because he's playing this like it's 3-base SoulKey, where if you just lean on him, it doesn't matter, they're dead. But he's right now figuring out that, oh my god, he has 6 o'clock. And look at that. Yes, his eyes like perked up. He just kind of, his head shook a little bit there. Now he knows that he's actually against a 4-gas Zerg. And this is part of why SoulKey is staying in this game and holding on. JyJ has to do a little bit better. Now he's trying to break this base once again. Oh my god, the Dark Swarm at the last second. The Lurker Eggs blocking. SoulKey continues his magic.
So there's a little secret for hiding bases. We can use this game to illustrate the example. If you're both sharing the top, the best hidden base to take is actually the bottom center. You don't want to take either of the mains, because if they're really strained and they have to use like a ground unit to patrol to cover most of the bases, you can have, like, let's say a Zergling or a Marine patrol from the bottom left main to the bottom right main. And you're going to cover 4 bases to check for a hidden base, which just leaves the bottom center.
And actually, you can misclick when you try to scout bottom center bases, because the minimap is completely black, so sometimes the pathing up the ramps is weird. Stuff happens, man, and it's like also so far out there, it's easy to attack, so it kind of doesn't make sense, which makes it make sense.
Yeah, it's a really calculated gamble that SoulKey took, and it's paying off. And now that base is impregnable, just like the third base is. So we've got a Zerg on a functional 4 bases. We don't actually have a lot of bases that the Terran could take from here on out. They could take the natural at the bottom left, maybe 12 o'clock. I think that wouldn't be that easy. Terran can expand into the bottom right. Zerg could take that later on. And again, remember that we don't have that much as far as bases go in general. Terran also may need to take the center with the minerals. That could happen here too.
Imagine if that actually happens in a TVZ. How crazy would that be? JyJ still has a lot more, but like last time we were talking about supplies, JyJ is increased by 10 and SoulKey's increased by like 30. So you can see like SoulKey is really actually catching up. The vessel count is still a big problem though. Like the vessels are, you know, they're like a floating base in a lot of ways. Like you're just irradiating so much, it's consistently gaining you value, and that's a huge problem. Like he needs to keep reducing those.
The main's about to mine out, only 76 minerals remaining there. The irradiates continue to come down in this location. JyJ has a big arm. Oh, love the drop over here. This is a smart move. How quickly is SoulKey going to react to this? A lot of drones are being picked off.
Yeah, he needs to clean it up really quickly. You got to remember, this is the moment in the game where if SoulKey loses a base, he'll probably lose, because he is his first 2 geysers are empty, guys. We're 25 minutes in. They've been empty for a little bit. So he's on 2.5 gas realistically. Okay, so that's, you have to keep that going.
Just a real subtle thing I want to point out is that he had, oh, hold on, I'll say it after this. There's another push in here. He may have actually breached that drop, pulled the lurkers away. Can the infantry come up the ramp? Oh my God, he's going to get an irradiate on the last one. This base down here at the bottom, I wonder if we're going to get a shot of it. There were 2 lings on top of a lurker. He put 2 lings exactly on top just to make it harder to irradiate. It was this funny little situation. He did manage to click under it, but it's just these little mini games that both players are trying to play to make the game as hard as possible.
Yeah, if you misclick and you irradiate with Zergling, that's a win for Zerg right there. A little group of Marines being cleared up in the center once again. All these bases just continue to be held, but the vessel count is not being reduced. He was killing more vessels earlier on, but we have this big cloud of vessels that's just irradiating everything in sight over and over, and he's really not able to get them anymore.
Looks like he can catch this drone. This is one of those butterfly effect moments, like if this drone lives, a new base starts. If it's spotted and killed, maybe JyJ wins in a long game. No!
Oh, he thinks he got it. Well, actually, I think he might have a Marine down there anyways, but some of the vessels getting killed off there, it looks like.
He did kill it, by the way.
Okay. Maybe a plague can go down here. That would be a juicy plague target with all those medics. Ooh, there it is. So definitely can clear that out. Dude, it's crazy to watch SoulKey fight back. And by the way, like, this is the comp I've been talking about a lot this season and a little bit last season, where it's like the Hydra Lurker Defiler is the most cost-efficient composition that there is against Bio. And you can see it at play here. Like, he's been behind economically, JyJ, the entire game. And he is fighting back so well.
I've actually lost count of how many vessels were killed off in the last minute. Like, there was just an absurd amount that was taken out, and it looks like that number is going to keep going up here. And, you know, the one thing that really, oh my God, he's just not quite in range with his vessel. He's going to kill it off, but you can't keep dropping vessels in a game like this. The vessels are giving you the most value. Now, there's still a lot in here, but imagine he had kept most of them alive. You know, there's just more
he's made 40 vessels or something this game. Maybe not 40, but, you know, 30 maybe. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Think about 30 irradiates. You just literally can't stop that. Imagine SoulKey 30 supply below where he is right now. Insane. But, yeah, I mean, obviously impossible to control as well. This is just part of what StarCraft 1 is. It's, you know, you have to click on each individual one to cast these spells. They're very fragile. But he still has a big cloud of that. Look at that. 7 of them going to town.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, even irradiating Hydras is acceptable when you have this many. Just irradiate stuff, kill it. Definitely, JyJ has the right idea. Oh my God, there's actually an opening here. If he can just irradiate, he's just going to try to suicide that vessel. Not good enough. You know, you never would notice it, from at least for me as a Protoss player, but I guess the vessel and the Defiler move at about the same speed, so you can actually run away in time.
I definitely know about that, Tastosis. they see you coming and they turn, and you're like, okay, I don't get you, that's fine. But look, SoulKey is no longer making progress. Okay, this is what I'm worried about for him, because for a little bit, he started to take the center, he was reducing some vessels, but at this point, everything he was doing has kind of dried up. He, like, either needs to destroy, like, an army or get another base immediately. Like, there's really no time to waste here for SoulKey.
Hold on. If SoulKey's going to get up here, this is going to be a moment that will actually open this game up to be even longer. I mean, there's no way that he's not going to get up here. It looks like we have JyJ coming down now to try to basically stamp this out. The medics are just healing at the ramp to buy time, so he can't get up here and make a bunch of eggs. But there's an opening at 6 o'clock, Tastosis. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He doesn't take it. Oh, my God, this is a crazy game.
Yeah, really, that could be the good move, is to kill 6. Like, well, if you can kill 6, that wins the game. Again, if he loses any bases, the game is over. Right now, this is SoulKey just trying to stall. He actually screws up the little egg wall, so the Marines do get on top of that, so he will end up losing all those Hydras and everything, but SoulKey is just slowing everything down right now. That is the absolute key.
SoulKey is so tenacious. Funnily enough, those Marines actually get cover from the Dark Swarm. Remember, Dark Swarm doesn't discriminate. Nothing that's a ranged attack will damage anything inside of the Dark Swarm Cloud, and so the Defiler is shot down. I think the walls are closing in here for SoulKey. I think there's not much time left in this game. SoulKey's only play is to try to get up into the bottom right location and expand into there. Another drone comes down. I lost count at how many drones have come through here. I think this is the killing blow, Tastosis.
Dude, you can see how hard it's been to kill him, but it does look like SoulKey is just about dead at this point. He's still got 84 supply. He's still trying to fight. Defilers continue to pop out. Dark Storms continue to go down. The Vessel Cloud, though, is just grinding him down.
Yeah, he's irradiating Hydras at this point in time. By the way, if you get a Hydra irradiated, you can turn it into a Lurker, and the egg will finish.
Yeah, eggs don't take damage from irradiate.
Yeah, the eggs don't care about that, so then a Lurker can hatch, but that's the state of the game that we're in.
Well, he clears everything from the bottom, but looking at the supply, 75 against 152, that's an issue. If SoulKey's on like 90 supply here, I'm like, okay, maybe, but we're literally on the brink where he is just about to die. A couple key units go, and he's not going to hold any longer. And as this many vessels fly down, that's literally enough to drop him below like the point where there's really no return.
Yeah, Zerg has yet to start a hatchery at this bottom right location. If Zerg could get the bottom two right bases, we'd be in this game for the long haul. Terran also quietly expands to 12 o'clock. Big plague over here. Pretty painful for Terran, but again, he just has the ability to death ray down everything that Zerg has over time. Terran is almost maxed out. And it just goes to show you what Zerg can do as far as turtling and camping against the Terran race. I mean, they can hang on with so little. It's insane, really.
Yeah, this is the most unkillable composition that exists, is Hydra Lurker Defiler. Like, you literally can't kill it. Like, to beat Hydra Lurker Defiler, you have to suffocate them like this, where it's like he hasn't killed the bases, but SoulKey is going to be out of his third gas. You know, he's just not going to have anything left eventually. And as JyJ hits 6, he knows that he's won the game. You can see a big sigh of relief. SoulKey looking a bit displeased. He put on a hell of a show here tonight. This final game, just the most indestructible I've ever seen a Zerg. But JyJ is going to make it through.
JyJ's done it. I think we're just seeing SoulKey process this loss, his hand even coming off of the keyboard. This is the point of no return, and it's going to be JyJ moving on to the round of 4 and going up against Hero, and who knows, with play like this, possibly even going on to the finals of Season 15 of the ASL.
Yeah, definitely a real possibility there. GG is called, and JyJ makes it to the round of 4. Oh my god. What a mammoth Terran vs. Zerg series this was.
You know, if you weren't familiar with JyJ, or maybe he was one of the more forgettable players, as there are so many great players in ASL, you will never forget him after that best of 5. He was so good. He played so well. And let's not forget, that last game, that started out with 1 base, 2 port wraith, into 3 racks, pressure, into then a game where almost every map was, or every expansion was taken on the map, excuse me.
Yeah, wow. That, like, just pure pleasure from that. That was an amazing series, and that last game, such a killer. Don't forget that open with the 2 port wraith. That's unreal. Like, we had such a weird early game with 1 base against 2 base forever, his own unique style. JyJ really ascending right now, and I can't wait to see him against Hero. Hero's going to look at that and learn a lot about what JyJ wants to do.
And what will Hero plan here? Also, JyJ going back to the lab here for next week's ASL. Let's not forget, you know, he really faltered when he mech'd. So does he try to, you know, brush up on that? Does he discard it? Does he go back and fix the errors and the builds he already did? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Like, you gotta mix it up a little bit, right? Because Like, for instance, all the factory plays that he was doing and setting up for the 2-port Wraith, I don't think you can do it exactly the same against Hero, because Hero's going to have a much better idea of what the overall game plan is. So there's definitely going to have to be some changes.
This was maybe actually the best series. You were right, Artosis. I mean, we had so many great series. Obviously, the ZVZ was a disappointment. Jaedong just, got beaten out so easily. But everywhere else in the round of 8, this kicked so much ass. We're going to go to an interview now, and let's see how JyJ's feeling. He's going to the Final Four, where he will face off against none other than Hero.
나의 레벨은 다르다 어나더 레벨 하식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 15 8강 마지막 경기가 모두 끝이 나면서 이번 시즌의 마지막 4강 진출자가 탄생했습니다. 본인의 한계를 다시 한번 뛰어넘은 테란 정영재 선수입니다. 축하드립니다.
감사합니다.
와, 정영재 선수 4강에 진출하셨습니다. 본인의 커리어 하이를 갱신했을 뿐만 아니라 오늘 경기력은 정말 본인의 한계 역시 다시 한번 뛰어넘은 그런 기분이 드실 것 같습니다. 오늘 5세트까지 가는 접전 끝에 결국에는 승리를 따내고 4강에 오르셨는데요. 오늘 이 순간을 얼마나 기다리셨을까요? 소감이 어떠실지 너무 궁금합니다.
진짜 그러니까 솔직히 떨어질 것 같았거든요 오늘. 근데 인터뷰 때는 그냥 인터뷰라도 세게 하자 해서 세게 한 건데 진짜 이렇게 올라갈 줄 몰랐어요.
첫 세트 승리를 거두고 다시 한번 패배를 거두고 승리와 패배를 거듭하면서 정말 몸도 마음도 조금씩 집중력이 흐트러질 수밖에 없는 상황들이었습니다. 결국에는 마지막 5세트를 시작했을 때 투스타포트 정영재 선수답지 않은 약간의 승부수를 띄우나라는 생각이 들었는데 오히려 그 이후에 모든 체제가 바뀌는 단계들까지 준비를 하셨나 싶을 정도로 굉장히 스무스하게 멀티를 가져가고 레이스를 끝까지 살려내고 하는 모습들이 있었습니다. 5세트 이야기를 좀 들어보고 싶어요. 빌드를 혹시 준비하셨을까요?
레트로 가면 졌다 생각하고 레트로를 한 판도 안 했어요.
와.
그냥 오늘 손이 잘 가길래 내 멋대로 해보자 하고 한 건데 그게 잘 된 것 같아요.
레이스의 움직임이 그럼 준비가 안 된 투스타포트 빌드에서 나온 레이스 움직임이었던 거군요.
그런 거 같네요.
엄청나네요. 두 선수가 세트를 거듭하면서 집중력이 더 살아나는 듯한 느낌이 들었는데 하지만 김민철 선수의 수비력도 사실 정영재 선수를 계속해서 지치게 만들 수밖에 없는 그런 움직임들이었습니다. 레이스가 결국에 퀸에 막히고 또 뮤탈에 흔들리고 하면서도 결국에 정영재 선수는 멀티를 늘리면서 다음 체제를 준비하는 듯한 움직임이 있었거든요.
이게 민철이 형이 저한테 자신 있었던 이유고 약간 어중패들이 이렇게 하다가 결국 지는 느낌이 많았어요. 저도 그랬었는데 많이 보완해서 온 것 같아요.
그래도 김민철 선수가 끝까지 정영재 선수의 공격을 막아내면서 6시 멀티를 돌리고 끝까지 뭔가 좀 반전을 시켜보려는 움직임이 있었는데 정영재 선수의 멀티가 앞서가는 움직임이 끝까지 이어졌습니다. 사실 그래서 6시 멀티를 봤을 때도 크게 당황하거나 하지는 않았을 거라는 생각도 들었어요.
이게 5시에 마린을 6시로 보내놨는데 벽에 낑겨 안 가고 있어가지고
아, 네.
왜 민철이 형이 안 나가지 하고 있는데 6시가 펴져 있더라고. 그래서 이거 맨날 지던 그 패턴인데 하면서 좀 많이 놀랬어요.
그럼에도 불구하고 정영재 선수는 정말 저그를 말려 죽이는 듯한 모습이었습니다. 공격을 가다가도 절대 좀 무리하지 않으면서 베스를 관리를 정말 잘하셨어요. 5번째 세트뿐만 아니라 승리를 가져갔던 경기들을 보면 정영재 선수의 베슬 관리가 정말 뛰어나다라는 평가들이 많았는데요. 오늘 본인의 경기력은 좀 어떻게 생각하시나요?
진짜 양심 선언을 하면은
네.
베슬 관리를 잘한 게 아니고 유리해서 베슬이 많았던 것 같아요. 그러니까 죽어도 계속 한 부대가 막 어딘가 있더라고요. 그래서 이거는 상황이 좋았던 걸로 생각합니다. 저.
오늘 많은 분들이 오늘 경기를 보시면서 정영재 선수의 판짝이 역시 정말 탄탄하다라는 이야기들도 있었습니다. 승리를 가져갔던 세 번째 세트 같은 경우에도 탱크를 섞어주면서 베스를 좀 빨리 모아서 드론을 정말 많이 녹이는 그런 운영을 좀 보여주셨거든요. 네.
일단 되게 유리하다는 건 알고 있었는데 아무것도 할 게 없는 거예요. 그래서 그냥 나도 모르게 해버렸는데 원래 하면 안 되거든요. 운이 좋았던 것 같아요.
정영재 선수가 오늘 인터뷰를 나눠보니까 정말 철저하게 준비했다라는 이야기보다는 정말 즉흥적으로 상황에 따라서 움직였다라는 말씀을 더 많이 해주시면서 좀 많은 분들이 의아함을 자아내는 그런 상황이 지금 나오고 있는데 이렇게 몸이 먼저 반응해서 움직이기까지 그동안의 정영재 선수의 연습량이 얼마나 많았을지 짐작하기가 힘듭니다. 연습 과정 어땠나요?
일단 한 4명 정도랑만 한 2바퀴 정도씩, 그러니까 5경기를 빼고 레트로를 빼고 2바퀴씩 계속 했으니까 그냥 셀 수 없을 것 같아요. 한 3일 동안 그냥 계속 했던 것 같아요.
네. 5번째 세트를 전혀 준비하지 않고 마지막 세트 가면 사실 많이 힘들 것이다라고 생각했음에도 불구하고 결국에 본인이 쌓아놨던 기본기와 연습량으로 5세트까지 승리를 가져가고 첫 4강 진출을 이뤄내셨습니다. 이 자리에 서기까지 정말 많은 동료들과도 응원들이 있었을 것 같아요. 어떤 분들이 좀 생각이 나실까요?
일단 연습 도와주는 사람한테 진짜 너무 고마워서 그분들을 먼저 언급해야 할 것 같고, 일단 재혁이 형, 그리고 예훈이 형, 짭제, 경수 이렇게 4명이 진짜 자기 대회처럼 진짜 막 열심히 도와줬거든요.
네.
너무 감사하단 말 하고 싶고, 그리고 몇 안 되는 저의 팬분들 오늘도
현장에 이렇게 가득 메워주셨는데요. 보이시죠 앞에?
제가 이길 거라고 생각 못 했을 거예요. 아무도. 항상 너무 감사드리고, 그리고 마지막으로 여자친구가 여기 왔어요.
네. 얼마나 감동적일까요, 이 순간이. 네.
이게 여기서 언급해버리면 다음 거 질 것 같아서 안 하고 싶었는데 하도 눈치를 줘서 이제는 해야 될 것 같고, 항상 너무너무 고맙다고 전하고 싶네요.
오늘 정말 무거운 마음을 좀 내려놓으셔도 될 것 같습니다. 철벽 김민철 선수를 상대로 결국에 첫 4강 진출을 이뤄내셨는데요. 다음 4강 상대가 또 한 명의 거대한 저그. 고개를 절레절레 내저으시는데요. 조일장 선수와의 4강전입니다. 이번에는 7전 4선승제인데 또 한 번의 정말 엄청난 담금질이 필요할 정영재 선수인데요. 어떨 것 같으신가요?
일단 반짝이는 고갈이 됐고요. 이제 실력으로 열심히 해보겠습니다.
정영재 선수의 이 우승 뒤에 얼만큼의 정말 고행길이 있었을지 감히 상상하기가 힘듭니다. 이번 시즌이 정영재 선수에게 정말 많은 기억을 가져다 줄 것 같습니다. 아마 정영재 선수의 팬분들도 그러실 것 같은데요. 끝으로 4강에 임하는 각오를 팬분들에게 정영재 선수 들려주시죠.
오늘 되게 좀 멋지게 이겨서 4강이 좀 부담될 것 같은데, 그래도 이것도 역배를 뚫고 올라온 거니까 다음 것도 아마 역배라고 생각되는데 최선을 다해서 오늘처럼 멋진 경기 보여드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
네, 정영재 선수 다시 한번 4강 진출 축하드립니다. 여러분 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 인터뷰 감사합니다. 자, 이렇게 해서 이번 시즌의 마지막 4강 진출자 테란 정영재 선수와 함께했습니다.
And there you have it.
Yes.
Oh man, what a series, Tasteless.
What a series. I feel great watching that, man. That was just so fun. And what a story, too. And you know what? Honestly, I think for a lot of people watching, another upset. I personally thought that SoulKey would probably take it. It's plot twist after plot twist after plot twist in this season. We've had great maps, we've had great games, and we've had new, crazy, emerging stories that are changing the way we understand who is actually on top of StarCraft in the year 2023.
Well, JyJ certainly worked for that win, getting that nice opening. SoulKey almost fought back. I almost feel like if they played this, if they turned it into a best-of-9, he would actually take it. If you look at the way that game went, I'm like, ooh, I feel like JyJ prepped that better, but SoulKey played it better, you know?
And so here's our final four. Best versus Mind, Hero versus JyJ. Hero, you know, I think in this lineup, it's not too shocking. He's in the final four. He's been in many before. Best in Mind, nobody really saw this coming. Best seems to have finally figured out how to navigate a StarLeague such as the ASL. Mind is back. We're not even sure what to make of that. Hero may be able to win this ASL now that Flash is gone, but JyJ is proving to be this new and up-and-coming Terran who knows, may upset the whole thing.
We get a new champion this season, no matter what, which is really
That's
nice.
Right.
And we definitely have two players that we have talked about really deserving a championship, Best and Hero. So that's amazing. I kind of hope that one of them win, just because they both feel like players that really should have ASL champion as one of their accomplishments. But Mind and JyJ, do not underestimate these guys. I think Mind might quietly be the second best Terran in the world right now. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Those matches coming up in the next week. Oh my God, it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be recording those as soon as possible, get those edited for you and thrown up. Again, guys, as a reminder, if you want to support us, please go to patreon.com/ASL English. We want to earn your support. We love doing this, but we wouldn't be able to do it without support from people like you.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. These two best of sevens are going to be amazing. I have no idea what the finals will be. I think every possible permutation is super duper exciting. Can't wait, Tasteless. I just want to download this all in my brain right now, but at the same time, I don't want it to end. I get a feeling of melancholy and sadness towards the end of ASL seasons because I'm like, this is my favorite time of the year twice a year.
Yeah, well, we're not at that high yet. We've still got the finals yet to come. I can't wait either, man. It's been a really great season. Guys, thanks again for joining us. We love you, and we're going to get that round of 4 put out for you as soon as it is recorded at the ASL studio. We love you. Take care. Bye-bye.